The election is tomorrow, and Joe Rogan announced that he was officially endorsing Donald Trump on X and Instagram. And honestly, so for me, one of the big things, I did a community note post about the Zoomer roundtable that Christian had. He released it today. And so President Foxman commented, I'm definitely interested in your thoughts, Jacob. And I replied, is that showing? Sorry, it's not showing. Okay. I thought it was wonderful. You brought up a lot of the most important things that the community needs to seriously consider. I do not want this to be yet another collapsed community in the wake of GG. I almost feel like not even saying Gamergate because, like, so this has been part of my thing. I've been trying to one of the things I've been trying to do is help Clara kind of understand this community. And for me, a big part of that has been the fact that we are a community that was created in the wake of Gamergate. And I had kind of started to despair because I thought many people around here really don't know, had never heard of Gamergate, don't really realize what is special about the Jordan Peterson sphere. And just hearing them speak about everything that they did on Christian's roundtable, it was a breath of fresh air. Yeah, so I'll keep on reading. And it was like, oh, people who actually know what Gamergate is, right? People who I can talk to. And the Elon Musk discussion with Joe Rogan, it's a normal discussion with people using the same set of facts as I am, right? It's like, we can disagree left, right, all that stuff, but we're dealing with the same set of facts, right? A lot of the things that they said on that podcast are things that normies would lose their mind over. And frankly, if thousands, hopefully hundreds of thousands, possibly millions, and it's not a joke, possibly millions of men who otherwise just simply do not vote actually show up, Donald Trump is going to win the popular vote, and it's going to be a blowout in the whatchamacallit, in the Electoral College. And with the team that he has assembled, honestly, it's going to be this election, if it turns out how it seems to me that it is going to turn out, it's going to be something really seismic in our world. And just yesterday, in the Just Chatting stream, we were talking about, well, people who think like politics is very important. Politics is very important, right? Paul Vanderklay constantly says, politics is now, religion is always. Well, if your religion is always, then it's now too, right? That it does influence your it does influence what you're doing in the world and how you're voting and everything else, right? And so I like this seems seismic. Kirk, I wasn't gonna publicly shame you. I said not tonight because, Kirk, you come on a lot and you don't contribute very well to the conversation. But if you're gonna do something like that, sorry, like, Kirk, learn some etiquette. TLC is somewhat correlated with the rise of the IDW, arguably more than Gamergate. Those two are related. They are absolutely related. Jacob, what's your thoughts on JD Vance? I honestly know nothing about the guy, although I think he had a talk with Rogan too. He did. And JD Vance is very close with Peter Thiel. When he was nominated as Trump's vice president, I said that he is vice president assassination insurance, and he is. If you've been listening to Eric Weinstein, and I always listen to Eric Weinstein, I think he is very smart. He has been warning quite loudly. He has been arguing, warning quite loudly about the fact that this Trump presidency, especially, we're talking RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, JD Vance, right? A lot of this is an administration. If in 2016 Donald Trump was a bull in the China shop, this is a stampede of bulls in the China shop. And so, sorry, I shouldn't be reading the comments. This is a stampede through the China shop. It really is. And the question is, what is going to happen in the next couple of months? Because the establishment, A, is not stupid, B, does not want to give up power. So, first of all, we have to see what happens in the election. I would be shocked if this is not a landslide election. I don't understand how this could be not a landslide election. I think Trump is very clearly going to win. And Are we going to see riots? Of course, we're going to see riots tomorrow. Once that's announced. Is there going to be another women's march? Probably. But that stuff that's not where it matters. The question will be, how is the establishment going to try to retain power? And frankly, they are going to have a lot harder time than they did with 2016 Trump. 2024 Trump, I would be very surprised if Ron DeSantis doesn't end up in the cabinet. He's been very good at getting rid of the woke. The billionaire class has clearly been talking about getting rid of the woke. Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency, yeah, it's a joke, but it's potentially seismic, because Elon Musk was the person who walked into Twitter and fired 2/3 of the people, right? This is pretty... I am very hopeful. I am very hopeful this is going to mean something. And this is the wave that I like. My investment in the Jordan Peterson sphere has been based on, and the IDW and Gamergate, the conviction that I have had. Excuse me. The conviction that I have had that indeed, like, what cannot persist will not persist. That the media landscape has been completely upended by the internet. Yeah, this is going to be huge. This is going to be huge. Sandy, if you want to jump on, I would love to talk to you. To have a Canadian to talk to. Kanakistani. If I wanted the Zoomer round table, will I understand? If I watch the Zoomer round table, will I understand what Gamergate was, or do I need to find out before I watch? Yeah. So just quickly, Gamergate was a kind of online rebellion of young men who played video games and continue to play video games, who got pissed off when wokery started interrupting their video games. So when I keep on saying, the people keep on making the boiling frog analogy. The boiling frog analogy is false. They have tried it with actual frogs, and the frog always jumps at the same time, right? It's the heat that it's not going to take. It doesn't matter how slowly you bring up the heat. Once it's too hot, the frog jumps. And when you tell teenage boys that they can no longer have scantily clad women, female avatars in their video games, they're going to riot, and they did, in a particular sense. And so that's what Gamergate is. It led to many YouTube channels, kind of political movements, which became subsumed into the IDW. It's funny. So I was very involved with Magic at the time Gamergate was happening, and I was not an online gamer. And I heard from actually a very left-wing lesbian gamer who at the time was still a friend, and about Gamergate. And I kept on telling her, like, no, like, men's rights activists aren't a real thing. Because they're not. And to some extent, they're still not. Except they are. And to understand the cultural we would need actual sociologists and actual political scientists to spend real time trying to understand what happened. And that has not been possible. Um, the discussion that Joe Rogan had with Elon Musk, if you can understand what was going on in that discussion, it is the culmination of Gamergate. And if that leads to the political ramifications, I think it will, which is huge numbers of votes. I really do think Rogan can easily deliver hundreds of thousands of votes. Easily. Hundreds of thousands of votes nationally is it's important, but if it swings a few states, I mean, my absolute dream is, and it's a fantasy, is that tomorrow New Jersey is going to be declared early as going for Trump, which will be a massive earthquake. But the Orthodox Jewish community is really pissed off. And the Orthodox Jewish community is going to show up in huge numbers for Donald Trump in ways that they simply never cared about the presidential election before. So, yeah, hopefully that's enough of a background about Gamergate. It's a more volatile prelude. Dr. Marcus Shera, Dr. Shera, if you would like to join and to discuss things, I would love to hear your thinking. It's a more volatile prelude to the Peterson phenomena, and was weirdly about video games. The details are not hyper important. Yeah, probably not, but it's interesting. It's kind of touched off again earlier this year. Yeah, I mean, Count Dankula and Sargon of Akkad never really went away. They really didn't. Kirk says Trump needs to hold the establishment cronyist criminals accountable. That is going to depend completely on who he appoints as Attorney General. If it's RFK Jr., I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't know if that's what he's going to do. I really don't know who a great person in that position might be. Possibly Ted Cruz. If Ted Cruz were interested in being Attorney General under Donald Trump, that would be huge. Because he knows the legal system. He would be an Attorney General that would be another bull in the China shop. Seriously. To be rein in the Fed's power. I'm not much of a Ron Paul person. C, fix the border. He already did. I mean, stay in Mexico, et cetera, and let's face it, simply his coming into office is going to be significant. I really think it is going to be significant. We'll see. We'll see. The deal with Iran and Hamas with less appeasement, you don't have to worry about that. Well, hopefully they kept all their pussy hats so they don't have to knit new ones. Let this sink in. Was a great moment in Twitter history. It was. Chris says, I am seeing a lot of cultural movement over this year that implies a wave. Man, I can't type. Apparently not. Come on, Jacob. You have such disdain for my political and social commentary that you'd rather a Canadian contribute? Yes, I would. Sandy can't jump on. Kirk. To my understanding, Gamergate assisted with the rise of the IDW, but the IDW is different because it also was reacting to Islam and regressive leftist excuses for it. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely strange bedfellows going on right now. There is definitely strange bedfellows, like, and the fact this is like our conservative party. Like, are you joking? Like, this is not a conservative ticket. This is not a conservative agenda, really. Yeah, we're not talking about conservatism. Antonio, gamers fighting against degenerate AAA game studios and their garbage games these days, in addition to wokery. Ryan, I thought the IDW was mostly against cultural Marxism and whatnot. The new atheist movement was in opposition to Islamic terrorism mostly. When the IDW really got going, part of it was actually including the new atheists. Yeah, it was weird. Father Stephen, you know you're going to have to jump on. Come on. You know you're going to have to jump on. Do I have to say your name 3 times? I'm sure Rogan will deliver at least as many votes as his Bernie Sanders endorsement did in 2020. I think his Bernie Sanders endorsement did deliver votes in 2020. In the primary. And I think that was part of the reason they did have to, coalesce around Biden. So I realize you're being sarcastic, but I think I'm not as black-pilled as you are, Father Stephen. I'm not that black-pilled. IDW was a cool kids club. Not sure I would agree with that. Avengers Assemble. Did you see Barry Weiss, Sam Harris, Ben Shapiro debate? Yes, it was a disaster. One of the worst wastes of time I have ever wasted time on. If you want to see non-conservatives not conservative, just look at the Australian Liberal Coalition Party. There's a political commentator, Helen Dale, who she lives in the UK. She's originally from Australia. I really respect her analysis, and I would love to see. Let's see. I mean, did Helen say? I follow her on Twitter, but she doesn't. Well, first of all, she's very obviously being let's see if I can find her. Even though I follow her, Helen Dale. Let me see if I can find her. Yeah, I'm following her, but will Twitter show her stuff to me? Never. Absolutely never. And I was just trying to search for her, and it's ridiculous. So she retweeted Zuby saying, "Can't wait for the U.S. election to be over," and I don't even live in that country. Yeah, I mean, when the United States sneezes, the world. I mean, when the United States catches cold, the world sneezes. Let's face it. We get to vote for all 8 billion people in this country, and to some extent, I mean, even we in California don't get to vote. So if you live in one of the swing states, yeah, you're. It's very very important that you vote and vote well, in groups, not as individuals, because individual isn't what matters the most. Um, Sandy says, uh, the dynamics of action and belief the last 8 years have stood out more than I remember in easier years. Some good, some shocking. What else runs below the surface of my awareness? Um, I think it's the advent of the internet. I really do. There's just been um, so much change in how we communicate, and our capacity, like the fact we have cameras and all over the place, and we're recording things. Yeah. Father Steven says, I have nothing but cynical doomer takes on this stuff. You are a very pessimistic person for a messianist, Father Stephen, and I prefer calling you a messianist to calling you a Christian, because people have forgotten what it means to be Christian, which is to be a messianist. So um, get with it, Father Stephen. I want Christians to actually be messianists. Uh, Boker Tov, Chezi, Boker Tov, Yoav, Kirk. What do you believe Trump's Ukraine policy will be? His Ukraine policy will be, we're done with this, and yeah, probably. I'm guessing the Ukraine war is going to uh, yeah. I'm mostly indifferent in monetary aid, weapons. I don't have a problem. Yeah, I mean, Russia has been thoroughly chastened, so yeah, not a huge thing. Father Stephen says, I don't put my trust in princes, in sons of men, in whom there is no salvation. Yes. Tov lachasot bahasham. Um, or is it La Hashem? I forget the exact words. Mivtoach bin divim. Um, and I completely agree with you. I do not put my trust in princes or sons of men, but I do put my trust in God actually working in the world, which I think he he look. I said the same thing when in 2000. I mean, I say the same thing whenever there's an election. Um, Whoever wins, ultimately, God made that decision. Um, but we have a capacity of we have a capacity to affect what happens in the world for the better or for the worse. And I really, really dislike this. There is a sense in which some people feel that either politics is below them or above them, or doesn't deal with them, and it's like politics isn't everything. Politics is actually something. And so, yeah, the night before the election, come on. I don't think I put an insane. I might be a little bit more political than I wish I was myself. But I don't think the right amount of political is zero. I'll just put it that way. Kirk says, I don't really care much what Trump does in terms of aid. I'm slightly concerned if he's too reckless regarding land negotiations and leaving NATO. Who was speaking about how Coleman Hughes was on the Comedy Cellar, and he was he read H.R. McMaster's book, which he very much recommended, and he was explaining why Trump's style really worked well for international politics more than for international relations more than internal policy. And I would agree with him to some extent. Look, the president can't be the expert of really any real policy himself. He has to be able to trust his people. And like, Trump didn't have trustworthy people. He did not have a political machine, which is part of the reason I always found the claims that he was going to be. I was worried about him being incompetent in 2016. Yeah, I wasn't worried about what he was actually going to accomplish because he had no political machine. He has a political machine now. And I mean, simply J.D. Vance. You saw that with the nominations with Pence in 2016. Like, Pence brought a lot of people he was from Ohio, was he? Or Indiana, I think. For some reason, Shadow decided she needed to attack my feet. I don't know why. Is there a reason why you need to attack my feet, Shadow? Shadow wants to play. Shadow wants to play. What can I tell you? Shadow, come. Come. No? What can I tell you guys? Okay. Where were we? Trump won't leave NATO. No. He was always negotiating with. He's a negotiator. Jacob championing Messianists and goading Christians into remembering how to be Messianists. Yep, that's Jacob for you. Do you believe non-Orthodox Jews will increase percentage points for Trump? I put in the links on my Discord a discussion that Ron Coleman had on his channel about the Orthodox Jewish vote. I thought it was excellent. I highly recommend it. Gideon, hey. I do think there is an issue with people making an idol of politics. True. But ultimately, a large amount of the Bible is about geopolitics. So clearly, God cares a lot about it. I mean, yeah. The question is, Yoav says, "Are you refusing to fight the Shadow?" No, I am not refusing to fight with Shadow. If she wants to wrestle, she can come here and we can wrestle. But I think she wants me to like pull out a toy or something. Where did I put? Oh, it's right here. I could be doing this. Yeah. Yep. This is what she wants. I am really torn. Do I continue this stream or do I go play with Shadow? I wonder if can I catch? Can you guys see Shadow playing? Let me see if I can make this work. Shadow, you're not playing in camera range. Chezi, hello, Chezi. How you doing?
Hello, sir.
Hello. Did you vote in the U.S. elections? Chezi? You're a U.S. citizen, right?
Did you ask if I voted?
Yeah.
Yes.
What state?
Ohio.
Ohio. Better than New York.
Yeah, I matter.
Yeah. You do matter. Yeah.
And I hope I hope my girl can bring it home.
Very funny. I don't believe that for 5 seconds.
You don't even believe that. I mean, even if I was living in America, that would still be my choice.
What would be your choice? Kamala Harris?
No.
You are joking. I can tell from that. Oh, so I went to Costco, and behind me there was an Israeli family, and they were speaking in Hebrew. And so I think her mother was visiting from Israel, and she picked something up, and she's like, "What is this?" And and her daughter says to her, "It's the bottoms of ice cream cones." She's like, "The bottoms of ice cream cones?" She's like, "Yeah. It's just the bottom. Like they were selling in like kind of like chips, just the bottom of ice cream cones." And and her mother turns to her and says, "Atritzinit?" Like, I just started cracking up. She's like, "Ani zoraket et." Did I say that correctly? She said, I that's the part I throw away." And here they were buying just the bottom, like, and when she gets to the bottom of the ice cream cone, she just throws it away.
Did you watch the Rogan and Elon Musk interview?
Yes, I did.
Yep. I didn't watch it. Was it good?
In a sense, yes. In a sense, no. I don't think. Look, anybody who actually follows our media diet, like a Jordan Peterson media diet, and doesn't think of like, every time they hear the Fine People hoax, they kind of roll their eyes. Those people are going to be bored, I think. If you're the type of person who doesn't know it's a hoax, I don't know what you're gonna. I really don't know who's listening. Say hi, Shadow. Okay, let's see if I can catch up while we see if Chazi ever shows up again. If you lose sleep over the election, you're taking it too seriously. Yeah, probably. And I do lose sleep over the election, but like, so do a lot of people, unfortunately. Yoav says regarding NATO, when Ukraine gives up, there is no one all the way to Paris. Pray for Russian moderation. I disagree completely that there's no one all the way to Paris. I think Putin has been very much chastened by the stupid invasion, and I think that was necessary. But we'll see. Putting our trust in God is definitely impactful on choices in life, including how we view government and our community responses before and after votes. Yeah. Are you refusing to fight the shadow, Jacob? No. Well, I wasn't. The only party I am part of is the political party of Hashem. Well, Am Yisrael Chai. President Foxman. Hey, Jung wants you to fight your shadow. Shadow, say hi. Say hi. Am Yisrael Chai. True. I would go watch that thing. Chazi needs Starlink. Chazi does need Starlink. I would let you guys see more of Shadow if I had a better camera angle, but I really don't. Sorry. Are you done? There you go. You're the star of the entire show. This is perfect. There you guys go. You're such a ham. Come on, Shadow. You can catch it. No? Shadow's bored. Kirk asks, Jacob, do you believe if there are riots in response to a Trump victory, they will be in major cities or just... they'll be in a lot of major cities, but they won't matter. It's the riots are dumb. Hello, Tezzy.
Yeah, sorry, my reception is not great driving on the hills here.
The hills of Zion.
The hills of Zion, the hills of Jerusalem.
Yes.
Is it a big deal that I'm driving down the path that our forefathers walk? Maybe, I don't know. Not a big deal.
What's the thing? Yerushalayim Harim Savivla.
Yeah, correct.
Yep.
Jerusalem, hills. Well, not Harim. Harim. So it'd be mountains surrounding it. Yes, definitely. And this was my first night away. I mean, we moved from Jerusalem to... We're going to be in Beit Shemesh near Samson's house, or where the sword of Samson went down. And it's very ultra-Orthodox.
Very ultra-Orthodox.
Yes, extremely ultra-Orthodox.
So, are you going to be able to get an aliyah or not?
Well, it depends. There's some synagogues over there. I think I'll, I don't think they're going to kick me out, but I don't think anyone's coming out to give me an aliyah. But there's a more chill synagogue near me as well. It's only for a month or two, so okay.
Why is it only for a month or two?
Then I moved to my actual new home.
Oh, you're in an intern home. I see. Yeah. I thought this was the new place you built with your brother.
No, that's what I'm moving into. So I've been really... 4 months ago, I moved my kids from our old house to a different place, and now again I moved into another place. So I'm really trying to mess up their life, I guess, as much as possible.
But they're staying in the same schools, right?
They're in the same school, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Moving kids' schools, that can be traumatic. Yeah,
it's true. However, and I'm aware of how privileged I am and how very grateful. But my house was a certain standard, and then we moved to my in-laws' place, which I also built, which is also a certain standard. And now we're living in like a tiny 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom. So it's the kids are looking at it being like, this doesn't look like our other homes. But it's also a lesson. It's all good.
They're learning how to be in small bedrooms.
Small bedroom, small fridge, sharing spaces.
Well, at least you don't have any 3-day holidays coming up. Small fridge, 3-day holiday doesn't work.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Oh, but you guys don't get 3-day holidays except for Rosh Hashanah.
Correct. That's the only one.
Yeah, that's the one 3-day holiday you guys get.
To anyone wondering why Jacob and I would have different numbered holidays or different lengths of holidays, that's because there's a difference with how one interprets the schedule in and out of Israel.
Yeah, well, it's not like there's a theological difference. All Orthodox Jews have different calendars if they live in Israel as opposed to live outside of Israel. Actually, this is something, I wanted to kind of clarify for Yon God, because there are people who don't know enough about Judaism to realize how silly the greater Israel maps that people make up are. Like the ones that, and it's like, I know people who live in Jerusalem who will not visit a lot because there's a safek whether or not Eilat is part, or I guess everybody says it's not part of Eretz Yisrael, right?
Well, not part of historical and then there isn't a ramification, a halachic ramification, right? So how I deal with my fruits, do I tithe? That's going to change.
Halachically, it's not part of Eretz Yisrael. Therefore, I knew not an insignificant number of people who would not go to Eilat because they were afraid that it would be considered Yerida, and they believe that's Asur, and therefore they would not visit Eilat.
I mean, again,
Okay. Before you get into that, can you explain the whole different calendars thing? And does this have to do with the whole like Rowan Gamliel versus Yehoshua or whatever controversy?
go ahead, Jacob.
If you're asking about the day of Yom Kippur, kind of, sort of, not really.
Okay.
So the Sanhedrin would declare the new moon based on witnesses. And
Pause for 1 second. Andrew, did you ever see Lord of the Rings?
Yes.
Okay, do you know when Gandalf
Chezi, you're droiding. What Chezi's trying to describe is there was a system of letting people know when the new moon was declared using fire signals, like in the movie.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so those places that were close enough to know if so, Rosh Hashanah, which falls on the first of the month, everybody, even in Jerusalem, kept 2 days because of the doubt whether or not it would be sanctified as being Rosh Hashanah. The other holidays, since they fall at least the 10th of the month, there was time to get information to people. So people who lived within the distance where messengers could be sent, they knew the exact date. But if you lived too far away, you had to keep 2 days for all of the major holidays. And that's why, so here in Los Angeles, all of the major holidays are 2 days, except for Yom Kippur, obviously.
Now,
I wish I could hear you so I could guess what you're trying to say. You want to try speaking again, Chazi? I can't hear a thing.
you guys.
Yeah, you're droiding.
Man. How about now?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay, so now to Andrew, on one hand, you could be like, well, we know the schedule today, and it's a little ridiculous that you have one Jew keeping one and a different Jew keeping two, but that is tradition.
Yes, and we stick with tradition, right, Chazi?
Definitely up until we get to a critical mass where the people change their tradition. But for right now, yes, stick with it. However, even that tradition, there's qualifications to it, which is, let's say, if you own property in Israel, some people only keep 1 day. If you're in Israel, so it changes.
Yeah. So did that clear up the calendar for you, Andrew?
So just to restate it, Yehoshua is like 2 days away, and he says it's on one day or whatever. He has a tradition
No, he
of
doesn't have a
celebrating.
tradition. He
Okay.
personally thought that
Uh-huh.
Yom Kippur was on, let's say, Wednesday, and Rabban Gamliel, was it?
Uh-huh.
His Sanhedrin had set it on Thursday. So Rabban Gamliel, I believe it was, said to him, "Come to me on the day you believe is Yom Kippur with your staff and your purse," showing that obviously he was not acting as if it is part of the holiday. Um, to prove that he was accepting the authority of the Sanhedrin.
The way that the way that's seen on the ground is, for instance, on the last holiday that just ended, you have a lot of people that come from. Can you hear me, Jacob?
I can hear you. Yeah, Andrew's thing was just really loud.
You have
Mike.
a lot of people that come visit Israel for the holidays, but they're keeping more days. So, for example, on one of the days where it's already a weekday for me and I'll be going to work, I'll still see Jews that came to visit from the States. They're still wearing their holiday garments and going to synagogue because for them it's still a holiday day, even though at the same time, I mean, it's actually a beautiful tension to witness because it doesn't feel awkward between us because everyone realizes that they're in their own little halachic world right now.
Yeah, when I was in yeshiva, so Rav Avadia had said that yeshiva Bachram who were living in Eretz Israel, who were studying in Eretz Israel, should keep one day because it's always possible for a Bachar to find a girl to marry, and which would cause him to uh, live in Eretz Israel. So I kept one day, but everybody else was Ashkenazi, and generally the Ashkenazi students, since they were planning on going back, I was planning on going back to the United States, but they kept 2 days at the yeshiva. Yeah.
I mean, it's called that period you're talking about is called Bein Hazmanim, right between the times, and in a certain sense, it's almost as if there's no time because all that matters in the Jewish schedule is the calendar and the time, right? So like if there's a period that like doesn't like if it's not qualified by time, so like I guess that's the only period you could go take a nap or go relax, so to speak. But when I was visiting my in-laws in the States, I know maybe 10 years ago or so, so for Passover, I mean like I didn't want to keep another day, but on the other hand, I didn't want to make it awkward for my father-in-law that like we're taking the car out in the neighborhood and like everyone is like still very much in their holiday mind frame. So we kept it just we kept it PG inside the house. We allowed ourselves to like watch something and use the phone, but like we didn't drive out or do anything too crazy.
Well, isn't that the halacha? If you're an Israeli living visiting Chutz La'aretz, you're supposed to keep one day for yourself, but act like in public, like you're keeping 2 days, right?
Yeah, assuming you're like I'm saying, if I walked from their house to the train station and then took a train into the city, no one knows me at that point. Like I'm saying, it's like in the neighborhood you're in. Yes, you should be respectful of what's going on over there. Yeah, obviously, that makes a lot of sense. They're
Hold on, but you wouldn't with a yarmulke be on a train on Yom Tov Sheni, regardless, right?
No, not in a place where I could cause confusion. If
Right.
I felt I was I was now in a place where like it's either understood or like I'm not in like quote unquote risk to being like raise any questions, then I wouldn't care.
Okay, so how did we get on this?
I don't know how we were talking about second days. I don't know how we got on.
Oh, we were talking about Greater Israel. So
Greater Israel. Yeah, so young God, Greater Israel.
yeah, so like this idea that like there are religious Jews who have this expansive map of Greater Israel that they're trying to make happen. It's like, no, we have halachic boundaries that are important as to what is and what is not part of Eretz Israel. And the political state of Israel generally covers more land than halachic.
Yes and no. I mean, you have land right now that like has biblically been promised to you that you're not controlling right now.
Like what?
Parts of Lebanon, parts of Jordan.
What part? Very small parts of Jordan.
No, but again, it depends. According to what verse are you reading your boundary?
Okay, now you're like vindicating the crazy
So one second.
the crazy conspiracy theories.
I'm not vindicating.
Yeah, you are.
You have religious Jews, right? That, to be fair, right, based on I mean, there's many things that you and I share with them with how we interpret some text and live our life based on that. So they interpret.
These are crazy Zionist
Now,
extremists.
there's levels to this, Jacob. For example, some people would say it's crazy for you to think that one day you'll have a temple, right, on the
yeah, but I'm going with the mainstream of.
I hear you. I would just say where it gets crazy is where people in government, right, talk about that as far as policy, and more so come, for example, with maps on their podium that shows Greater Israel. So
who did this?
Mr. Bezalel Smotrich was in a meeting, and like he has a big map and it shows Greater Israel. Now that is
Greater Israel. I want to know what his map is. Like how far is he going to go?
Far, as far as he's concerned.
Yeah,
a lot of it's ours. First of all, you have to think about the 2.5 tribes in Jordan, right?
You realize that there were Jews who traditionally have been living in these lands and keeping 2 days, right?
I realize there's people that be living in these lands and keeping 2 days. Okay, you mean like what lands? You mean like in Jordan?
Chalab,
okay,
at least.
You're saying that
even in Lebanon.
But yeah, but Jacob, this Greater Israel that even Shmosher is talking about, it didn't even happen in our history. I mean, like, you know, with Solomon and David, you have land swapping with Hiram, like in Lebanon, but like you don't really have. I mean, obviously there was good relations there because we use his wood to build our temple. But yes, that land that Shmosher is talking about, we also, there was never a point in Jewish history that we even owned all that land, right? So that moment never happened. And you are right that it is it's very silly to talk that way. It's very dangerous to talk that way. It just causes issues. Now, there's a different flex, right? Which is like, if you want to talk about it as if like I'm not against using biblical terms and saying why you're part of the land. That's, as far as I'm concerned, all kosher. However, even that comes like into, that needs to be put into a certain context. For example, we got into a lot of trouble.
Chazi, apparently Smotrich thinks Greater Israel goes all the way to Damascus.
Correct.
He's an idiot.
I agree. And I also agree that using terms like Amalek, right, is going to, you know, the world is not going to know how to handle terms like this, even if I could show you how this member of parliament and this one, he didn't mean it that way. It doesn't matter. That's how the world sees these things and hears these things. And you're right, it does no one good. It is poison. It is dangerous.
It is halachically illiterate.
I agree. We've been hijacking.
You keep on trying to convince me that like the Zionist project is slowly becoming less idiotic, and like I don't see it, Chazi. I really don't see it.
No, I didn't say that this. I know. I never said that the Zionist thing is becoming less idiotic. I said it's a process that hopefully ends in a place where you and I could find agreement. I believe we're still deep into that change, and October 7th, and even the war right now. These are all these. We're living through times where the maps are changing. The maps we learned in schools are changing, and the world is changing. And Iran, and I mean, like Israel has to realize it has moved. It has moved. Okay.
The religious
For 2,000
Jews
years.
have to realize that the political state of Israel has no religious significance in our religion whatsoever. That's what they have to realize.
Again, I know you're saying that, but you also disagree with that because you
No, I don't.
Jacob, is this all part of God's plan?
Everything is part of God's plan.
Great. Then
The fact that Gavin Newsom is the governor of California is part of God's plan. That doesn't mean Gavin Newsom has some religious significance in Judaism.
So you're saying it just as we'll call it like the minimum amount of God involvement, right? Let's say Gavin Newsom is who
what
he is.
Minimum? No, maximum amount of God involvement. God decided Gavin Newsom is going to be governor of California.
So Jacob, so again, I'm asking you: at what point does like you could say I was walking down the street and I just bent down, and right as I bent down, a rock flew over my head, right? And like that's just luck. You know, is 1948? It's just like happenstance. It's nothing. It's just like
no. It's I don't believe anything is happenstance.
Yeah, but there's gradations to it. So again, is 1948 just as likely as you bending down and a rock missing your head, or is there a little more providence involved in there?
No, there's no more or less providence.
Great. Okay, so then right now you are just like, okay, so we already know this about ourselves, and I'll go back to what I was saying. In 1948,
a bunch of Rishaim decided to make a horrible mistake, which has led to the death of thousands and thousands of Jews.
First of all, if you look at the number of Jews that were lost over the last 2,000 years in exile compared to the death you have in Israel, it's a joke. It's still the safest place to live, hands down, period, end of discussion. Less Jews died here than what happened in the last 2,000 years.
How about we compare same years, the number of Jews who lived in per capita of Jews who were murdered living in New York as opposed to living in Eretz Yisrael?
When are you starting the numbers though?
What do you mean?
Are you starting the numbers since Rome?
It doesn't. I'm saying same year, right? Since 1948.
Yeah. No, but why?
Each year per capita was living in Eretz Yisrael safer than living in New York for Jews. No, it wasn't.
You're right, Jacob. You're right. You know what will be safer for them? Not in Israel. And then you know what will be safer for them? If they don't act Jewish. And if you know what will be safer for them? The safest will be if they don't even speak Hebrew or identify as Jews. Because if you identify as a Jew, your life is in risk. And if what you're saying is we just need to make sure we're safe, then just sew back your circumcision, put your head in the sand, and act like
you're being absolutely silly. You know better than what you're saying.
Why are you starting from 1948?
Because 1948 is the mistake of Yom HaAtzamot.
No, but I'm saying if you compared
there's a reason I call it Yom HaAtzamot.
Okay, so now back to what I was saying. In 1948, in my estimation, the Bible becomes relevant again, because the Bible comes and hits us all in the face when the Israelites come back to their land, which people thought would never, ever, ever happen, and use their language. And all that modern day miracle, which it defies all odds, takes place. Now I would say Jews, right? And this is why there's the issue with the state of Israel. Jews never lived for 2,000 years as a nation. Instead, we had the Stiebel, the Macher, games, figuring out how to work with enemies, positions of power, just to survive. And then we came to this, and we always looked at the world from the outside, because there's historical things happening, and the Jew finds himself on the sidelines or somewhere in the middle, but like they're not part of history. And since 1948, we have joined the world nations and have become part of history. So much so that now the maps we're seeing in front of us, all these things matter. What Iran's going to do based on Israel, and how that's going to affect China and Russia, and how that affects America. These are all connected. And Israel has to realize that as it's maturing, it is now taking a place around the other nations of the world. And to your point, Jacob, if it wants to do so successfully, I believe it needs to transform and remove its secular shell of just a nation and transform into something else, which I believe you and I would be more aligned on. I'm just thinking that I want to be part of the process of the change. You're saying when the change happens, let me know, I'll come. Until then, it's all nothing. I mean, you basically said you want to be there when Jacob and the brothers are hugging. The Benjamin, the attitude, the whole drama, the taking of the bags. No. None of that's God. Up until the point Joseph says it's God, and then, okay, now it's God. You're free now to speak, Jacob.
Chatati aviti pashati. I God must be showing me how idiotic I was for thinking of things in political terms, and I'm sorry. I will, from now on, stop saying such stupidly political things, because now you have shown me how idiotic it can be to mix religion with politics. Yasher koach.
I'm not sure how with that example you did that, but okay. By the way, you realize that Joseph is mixing politics with religion, right? That's very much what God wants him to do, or really any king of Israel is politics, right? Or unless you're good, like you're saying secular politics, right? I'm 100% with you. Secular politics.
You seem to think you're like, Jacob, the fact that he got stuck in traffic, that's not God. But if Chezi in 1948 gets stuck in traffic, that is God.
That's not what I said. I said, are you saying, because you're saying, listen, 1948, right? The day of
was a huge mistake. It was a sin before God.
Right. So I understand that that's your opinion. Even if it was a sin before God, like, why is it not just like a regular Wednesday? I don't understand. Like, what's the big deal of, like, it's not a big deal, right? That the people that came back to their land and restarted their language, all of that it's not a big deal. It's not even noteworthy, Jacob. Why is the world talking
it's not noteworthy? We should all fast on Yom HaAtzamot.
Why? But Jacob, but it's nothing. It's just like stubbing a toe. It doesn't mean anything.
No, I didn't say it's nothing. I said we should all fast.
So right. So it's horrible.
Yes, we should have a tzom.
Right. So
Yom tzom and teshuvah.
So you know what you sound like. Why don't you just take us? Why did you take us to the desert to die? Just take us back to Egypt. Life was so much better, God. We had cucumbers over there. We had watermelons over there, right? Just take us back.
It's so funny. I just threw that verse at somebody else today.
I mean, you have to. I feel like you'd be hanging out with the Tan V'Aviram. I don't know. What's the deal with this? Why is this so great? Why is this so special? let's fast today. This is a shitty day. All right. I mean, like, it's we look at these things differently. But
yes,
I agree. But
because
I
you
agree.
refuse to look at what the Cheta Egel. You refuse to look at the Egel and recognize that it's an Egel.
No, wrong. I'm just thinking about the verses that say when you come back to the land, it will start to blossom. And it didn't blossom for 2,000 years. That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the verses that say you will sing these songs of wedding and love in Jerusalem. And that's what happens every single day in Jerusalem now. Those songs are being sang. And people say, if I forget Jerusalem, I'll forget my right hand. After 2,000 years of no one singing those songs, they sing them looking at the old city. If that's not like a win, if you don't think Jews all their life were begging for that, and this is what they're hoping for, every year singing next year in Jerusalem, and then 1948 happens, Jerusalem comes Jacob and says like, no, not this Jerusalem. No, this is not it. But it looks so much like it, Jacob, because it's in the right location and it's the place and the UN and they're saying it, and it's after the Holocaust. No. Just know your place.
Chazi, please, for the love of God, don't make me give you all of the reasons why you shouldn't. You need to recognize that things are not so great living in Jerusalem.
Things are not so. First of all, you have to define what great is. If I'm comparing it to the Jewish history, the fact that my son got to study in the old city and walk every day and walk where the prophets and the kings walked, you have Jews that lived full lives in exile would have given it all up for one day of my son's life. One day.
Gideon says, as an apostate from Judaism, I will say that I think Chazi has the better argument here, if I understand the debate correctly. Obviously, Gideon, having read your explanation of Maimonides, where you explain how you think the Messiah has already come, yeah, Chazi is 100% in line with the people who understand Judaism not at all.
Just to be right, okay, Jacob, come on now.
Listen, read what he wrote. This is somebody who Rahman al-Islam is Meshumad.
One second. I'm just saying.
Read what the Meshumad says.
One second, Jacob. First of all, if you say, just for your own sake, if you say that I don't have anything idea what I'm talking about, it's about to have me talk on the stream, right? Because like it's just a waste of air. Second of all, even to what Gideon is saying, I would even say, like, you could talk about Messiah being a time period and all those things could be true. And that's why I think we're in like a Messianic era. I don't think Messiah is here yet. I think we've reached redemption, but that's the starting point. That's not the end point. Jacob,
I was so happy before this stream.
No, don't be sad, Jacob. Let's talk about other stuff, things that make you happy. Listen, as far as Israel is going to disappear. It's fine. It wasn't a plan. Trump will win. Everything will be okay. What would you need to see to change your mind? For example, if there was civil war over here, the government fell apart, and there's a third exile, I'd be like, yeah, I was wrong. But what for you, Jacob? And obviously we know that, like, you saw the temple fall from the sky, right? Clearly, that would be an indication, right? You and I both know that it's not a temple falling from the sky. So, like, what is it?
What do you mean? I perfectly believe in a temple falling from the sky.
Falling from the sky.
Yes.
Any warning?
No.
So, like, the guy working there cleaning, sorry. Part of the miracle.
Too bad. Too bad.
How are they? I just want to know. I'm assuming miraculously also, like, all the fiber optics lines, everything's going to connect.
I have many times said I would be not at all, in my understanding of Judaism, would not at all be changed if a UFO just landed on Har HaBayit.
I agree. I mean,
Okay.
I also agree that UFOs could have their own Torah, as long as it's speaking to them in their language. It would be
Whatever.
absolutely,
That's
but
beside the point.
even exactly, that's beside the point. What would you need to see to know that, like, all right, maybe there's something to this this Israel situation?
מפני חטאתנו גלינו מארצנו.
I know, but okay, but there's love. I'm saying, think of it.
It's
Like,
very clear. How do we know that that Mashiach is here? There will be no more sin. Yitameh,
Jacob, one second. Even when Messiah comes, that day, it's not that there's no sin. He fights wars, there's battles. It also says that nothing in the world will change beside of Shub and Malchiyot. It doesn't mean there isn't sin. Now you're talking about the world to come. That's something else. Talk to me about the Messianic era, okay? That doesn't mean there's no sin. And that doesn't mean that, like, you know, you can't stub your toe. So I'm asking, like, how would you know, like, that maybe things are going the right direction? Like, what would be your data points? I have many data points that work for me. What are yours? And it can't be that the data point is only when, like, of course it can, because of Europe. It's like only when the temple doors are open, only then am I coming. But like as in, it wouldn't be enough that they're even constructing the temple. It needs to be built. Like, what is it that you need?
I
need a prophet.
I am pulling up exactly what I need. Hilchot Melachim.
Oh, I love it.
Umilchamot.
Glad you went here right now. Good.
Hello, yes. Yoav. How are you? המלך המשיח עתיד לעמוד ולהחזיר מלכות דוד לישנה לממשלה הראשונה. הוא בונה המקדש ומקבץ נדחי ישראל וחוזרים כל המשפטים בימיו כשהיו מקודם. מקריבים קורבנות ועושים שמיטין ויובלות ככל מצוותן האמורה בתורה. וכל מי שאינו מאמין בו או מי שאינו מחכה לביאתו, לא בשאר הנביאים בלבד הוא כופר, אלא בתורה ובמשה רבנו. שהרי התורה העידה עליו שנאמר, and he goes on, and then he says, אף בערי מקלט, okay, halacha 3, ואל יעלה על דעתך שהמלך המשיח צריך לעשות אותות ומופתים, ומחדש דברים בעולם, או מחיה מתים, וכיוצא כדברים אלו, אין הדבר כך, שהרי רבי עקיבא חכם הגדול בחכמי משנה היה, והוא היה נושא כליו של בן חזיבה המלך.
One second, Jacob. Just the people that are listening. Jacob is reading from Maimonides and says that will know that the King Messiah comes. He will be king. He'll bring back rule over Israel. He will build the temple. We will go back to participating in Jewish law like we have. Do not be mistaken thinking that this needs to be Gandalf throwing wizards, making magic. No, this is a regular Joe. And just like Rabbi Akiva was convinced that Bar Kokhba was the Messiah until he died. And then he realized he wasn't the Messiah because he wasn't successful. So what you're saying is, Jacob, is there could be a political leader, right? Now magic, that we end up finding out that he was Messiah. And all he'll need to do is build the temple, do these things. But there's a process. That means he doesn't do that on the first day or the second day. It might be he does that into his second term. It might be that he needs to campaign. It might be that we need to elect him. Oh, and we might need to be in the right place to be able to see him. But it's a man that gets elected, a political leader. And to do that, you need to have infrastructure to be able to vote and look and see and hear him talk. If he wants to talk to people, is he going to need to use the internet? To use the internet, does he need fiber optics? Do you need a government to be able to put the internet around? How do you think that happens, Jacob? What he just expressed right now is a regular day that we end up finding out that Messiah finally came. For that, you need infrastructure. You need government. You need learning. So do you think he just walks into a place? We didn't come to Israel. We didn't get Israel in 1948. So then what happens? A man walks in to Israel and then just declares he's the Messiah and we all come along? Or does it make sense that these miraculous things would happen within some sort of natural pattern, which part of it looks like the people coming back to the land, and part of it looks like Noahides arising, and part of it looks like we find the Pashtun people and the Ethiopian Jews, and all of them start coming back to the land. Doesn't that look like more of the pattern of these things starting to manifest?
Hello, Yoav.
Hello. I'm fine. Let me just try to desperate attempt to reconcile you both. In that day that you called Yom Atzamot, what I suggest that we do is that we'll have this day as a day of celebration, and the day before we'll have a day of fasting and mourning. Would you agree on this compromise?
When the Nevi'im come and declare a fast or a holiday, I will gladly follow whatever they say.
Okay, so we'll not do the fasting because it's not from the Bible, but we'll do the mourning and the tearing of clothes. Is it okay with you? Okay, so we have a democratic country in which people are voicing loudly the opinion of Chezi and the opinion of Jacob and the opinion of Bezalel Smotrich, which is
Hashem Yerachem Aleinu.
Which in a democratic country is entitled to express his opinion and present whatever map he wants to present behind his back. And other people in other parties present different maps or no maps at all. A question to you both. You are counting the dead as if it's important, as if you have 7 dead on one hand and 6 dead on the other hand, then you go for the 6 dead. For you, as religious people, doesn't it matter how you die? If the cause is right, is it not an important consideration? Because as a secular Zionist, it's the Masada complex. We want to die fighting. I mean, we're all going to die in the end, but we want to go down fighting.
Eila besusim ve'eila berechev, anachnu b'Hashem Hashem nidgol.
I would also argue, Yosef, that that according to Jacob, and good morning, Yoav. According to Jacob, I don't know if necessarily he's against fighting for something worthwhile. He would just argue that, the death you're having in Israel, which let's say I would qualify as a Kiddush Hashem. 1 second, please. Sorry.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I'm just asking you, shouldn't you both stop counting the number of dead? I mean, the argument was at one point, in where will you get more dead, here or there?
Yeah, Yoav, the religious, the halachic consideration, because there is no mitzvah of kivush haaretz today. According to all but the most crazy, the question is, what is the halachic consideration? And the only legitimate halachic consideration, as far as I'm concerned, is the argument that the Dati Leumi and Agudat Israel and all of the religious make, is that having a Medina is a shmirah for the Yoshvei Eretz Israel.
Okay, I do not agree with with the logic, with the philosophy of that. I'm just saying, at one point you were comparing numbers, and I think that was stepping aside from the correct path. That was my comment about that. Yes, argue about the principle. I respect that, but first of all, don't count the numbers, and second, you don't know the numbers because you cannot predict the future. Like Chezi, I don't know if we're all going to go up in smoke by some kind of an atomic bomb, and it was all in vain. I do not know that, so I cannot make the calculation.
But no, this is an agnosticism I completely reject. We live our lives according to how we can understand what we avoid death and avoid unnecessary death. That's not. I don't accept this sort of agnosticism. Oh, we could all die at any moment.
It's not agnosticism, but I say choose your path first, and I respect your path. And then while going on your path, of course, tries to minimize casualty as much as possible.
Right. But the Jewish path for thousands of years has not been to try to establish an earthly kingdom ourselves. That's not Judaism.
I get my Torah from my father and mother, who get them from their parents, and the path that I inherit from them is that path, because they have made the choice. They have made they have been out there and they've made the calculation. So this is the law that I got from them. I do not read it from the text, or to say more accurately, I only interpret the text in the terms of the oral tradition that I've got. And that's for me, but
no, I completely understand that. But that's why Zionism is a different religion. It is a religion separate from the Judaism that the rest of us have.
Oh yes, churches do split all the time, but within, as in the United States, you want different churches of different interpretations live together in some kind of an agreement. Then the likes of you and the likes of Chezi are living in Israel on democratic basics, and that's the only path forward. And anyway, I'm not arguing with you. I mean, I'm not at any point saying that your way is wrong. My only point is that to be careful of calculating numbers. Go from the principle first and numbers second.
The reason we were having the argument is because ultimately, I think Chezi understands, from my point of view, the only arguments for the Medina is that it is a shmirah. That is it. That is the only value I see in Hakamat HaMedina.
An American would say that America has a value by itself. I mean, never mind if you're Christian, the concept of America is a value.
I am an American. I would go to war and die for America. So I am a Jew. I hope I would be willing to die for Judaism. Medinat Israel is not Judaism.
Fine, but likewise, Chezi and I are Israelis. So Chezi can argue with you in terms of Judaism. I will not, because that's not my field. But also, separately, we are Israelis, and for us, Israel is a value.
Okay,
By
and
itself.
that's understandable, and I'm fine with that, as long as there's no, and this, I mean, I don't know, did you listen to the discussion sometimes when Chazi and Gilad were talking? I would I would jump in, like, okay, so you're going to give me the nationalist argument for you live in that country. Gesundheit. I wish you all the best. That's great, as long as you don't claim to be a Jewish state, and I don't have to worry when I go to synagogue that there's a bunch of protesters who are protesting what you're doing in front of my synagogue when it's your national thing. Like, just take the Magen David off the flag and stop calling yourself a Jewish state, and fine, be whatever you like.
Well, a lot of us would have liked to do that.
Yeah.
There is and they are in position of power, and they were working their best to do that. But then, if the majority still, for whatever reason, wants to stick that Magen David on the flag, then I'm sorry. I mean, I appreciate your support, but you'll have to just accept our right to put whatever symbols you want to put on the flag.
See, this is the thing. I don't like, if people are Jews who believe in Judaism, right? Okay, you want to claim to be part of Am Israel, Mazel Tov, Am Israel Chai. If you don't want to be part of Am Israel, if you have your secular project, okay, have your secular project, but don't play this game where, when it comes to Shemirat Shabbat, we're Chiloni. When it comes to, we want help from the Jews living everywhere else, right? It's like, excuse me, you can't have your cake and eat it too. And
No,
that's exactly what secular Zionism does.
No, I'm not playing a game here. I kept saying we are a democratic country, which is a place for people of quite opposite opinions on how this country should behave. And I would plead for your support, partly or 50% on that argument, that you might want to support a pluralistic democratic country like ours. Yes,
with the
we are confused. We are facing two different ideals: the ideal of Judaism and the ideal of a nation, which sometimes go together and sometimes contrast. That's life. It's not a game. It's life.
Yoav, look, if it's democratic values, you can't have a democratic religious state. You can have a religious state, or you can have a democracy. You can't have both.
Jacob, you're right. And what you were describing about, like, why can't it just be a state that's not called a Jewish state? I'm with you. I'm fine with it not being that Jewish state. It will be a Jewish state because most of the people living there are Jews. And what I would like there to be is that bottom up, it transforms into what I want it to turn into. But it needed the secular movement in history where we are right now. Even to get to the stage where you want, it's still required, and we could call it Mashiach ben Yosef, a secular exoskeleton to build itself into a nation. Just like God says, when you come to the land and you look around you, what systems do they use to build?
What I hear when you say things like that is, in order for things to get here, we needed Chet Ha'etz and Chet Ha'egel and Chet Mechirat Yosef and Chet this and Chet that,
Right.
and not a teshuvah, not a
Why are you saying it's not a teshuvah though?
a recognition, Chatati, Aviti, Pashati, that this was a mistake.
Jacob, how do you define what tshuva looks like? Does it look like to you like that there's more Torah study now than ever before in Jewish history? Is that not a win? At what point do you say like, oh, that's good? The fact that
At the point where it's no longer a secular democratic state.
yeah, but Jacob, maybe God is saying that when you come, it will turn that way. But you're right now living somewhere else. So yes, Shuva Elai, Shuva Elechem, come home. There's half of the Jews.
Hold on, no. God is not Eretz Israel.
You're right. God is not Eretz Israel, but the people and the land and the religion, it all happens down here. This is where the trifecta goes down.
It's called perspectival knowing.
And
Anyway,
by the way,
thank you for letting me in. I have to go to work now. It's too late for. See you.
Have fun at work.
Jacob, I'm excited. You're coming. You're moving in. First of all, anyone watching this should realize this is the concept of or chavruta or mituta. Jacob and I are not fighting. We don't hate each other. It's all love. By the way, I do think this is like sometimes something that gets like confused in like the TLC, which is like, you know, things get heated. Like this is just like I wouldn't even call this very heated. This is just like a regular.
There's a very big difference. Actually, I was talking to somebody about this earlier today as well. Like there are fights I have where they're genuine fights. Like genuine fights. Like you're not welcome in my house anymore. Chezi is welcome to come here and speak all of his kefira. But like it's different. It's like it's there are different levels of disagreement. As Douglas Murray likes to say, when you ask people if they're tolerant of this and that, they say, oh, of course we're very tolerant. And then you ask them, okay, so what don't you like about what you tolerate? And they're like, nothing, we're tolerant. And he's like, that's not tolerance. It's only tolerance if you don't like it. Then you tolerate it. If you already like it, it's not tolerance. It's just acceptance. It's what you like.
I do agree that the current manifestation of the state of Israel is very problematic. And it creates a tremendous amount of tension and led to many mistakes. But to me, that's like, there's so much baby in that bathwater. So like, to just be like, nah, like, it's part of living over here. I mean, I said this in the past, but like, and when my grandfather moved here after 67, as I mentioned to you in the past, he spoke to his community and said, I'm moving. And he told them, and the seminar, he's like, can't you hear Mother Rachel calling? Like, after the 6 day war, like, what do you want to see? Now, he wasn't like, and we'll work the land because like Ben Gurion, he wasn't like thinking like a secular state. He just, we're being called to come home. And I understand you're saying like, but that's not the voice I'm hearing. Like, that's not how I want it to sound.
Chezi, when somebody like Smotrich starts talking about Greater Israel and Kibush Haaretz and idiotic stuff like that, it's like, no, I didn't sign up for this.
You're right, but the problem is, and this is called the second home privilege theory, as I told you about. Right now,
Chezi, you hold court. There's something going on at my apartment. I'll be right back.
All right. Hello all. I'm actually going to be leaving in 5 minutes, but I'm on holding court. I love Jacob, and It's okay that he's wrong. It's a state. It's a brave state. No, I think ultimately we agree. And I think a lot of times it's the terminology. And that's why Jacob agrees with me. Hey,
Hello,
Jacob.
Tayo.
Good morning, my two favorite brothers.
What time is it
Really, if you think about it, it's the British's fault.
It is very much the British's fault.
Yes, yes.
Um,
Oh, Shadow. I just want to say how much fun it is listening to you guys give the greatest hits. It's always amazing. And I only came on because I thought Jacob would be gone for longer. I don't want Ezzy to be by himself.
Ah,
And it's 7 a.m., Jacob.
7 a.m. That
in
sounds
England,
way too early.
it is 9 a.m. in Israel. I don't know, Jacob. I think that part of it is like you just said, schmuckery. Like I think that is like that and the rise of the extremist right in Israel is and you see this across the world. It manifests differently, obviously, in different places, but there is a pendulum swing and a reaction where, like, okay, Shmutzi comes and says, not only am I going for, let's say, not only am I in the state of Israel, which already people are giving me pushback, if I'm living in this world right now where people are calling me a murderer, people call me this, people call me that, genocide, I want the whole thing. Everything's mine. And that is a knee-jerk reaction and a bad reaction. And I feel like that is a reaction because he feels that it's him against the world. Now, if there were more Jacobs in Israel and more Yoavs in Israel, they're saying like, no, I am very much interested in a religious concept. I just don't want it crammed down and forced down my throat through the government, through a secular government. Then you could build something new over here. And then the voices like Ben here just become fringe. But when they're missing, and then you have an issue where you have ultra-Orthodox, which have their view of how religion is used, and you have extremists that gain political power. Next thing you know, when you say Jewish is democratic, the word Jewish is a boogeyman because it means something completely different. So that's why I keep on saying that it's Rashit Tzmichat Geulah, right? The beginning of the growth of our redemption, not the end point, not we're there, not Messiah came, not Israel's the best thing in the world. It is the process that starts these things. Now, again, I'd rather be early than late. And I guess it wasn't up to me.
So when my good friend the Meshumad comes and my good friend the Meshumad comes and explains why Mashiach came 2,000 years ago, you'll explain to him how that's different from your Reshit Tzmichat Geulah.
I didn't see Messiah here. What do you mean?
Antonio says, I thought the focus was always Torah observance. That would be nice. And trusting in God in all other things. That would be nice. The issue was with fixating on precursors to the Messianic age is that one, it can detract from Torah observance. Why, thank you, sir. And two, it can make an idol out of the biblical concepts, which can make one unwilling to sacrifice these concepts when the time comes. Thank you so much.
Right, and you could just turn that into an idol, right? Like the idol now is all I need to do is stay in exile and just learn this Torah, exile Torah. It can't change. It won't evolve. This is what it is. But hey, person in exile. It doesn't matter if Moses didn't do this. I'm gonna just live my life as if I'm living in Europe.
Even according and this was the main thing where with Gideon, like I think he completely misses the point, which is like this is one opinion where it is the Rambam's Shita, and obviously we have great respect for the Rambam, but it's one Shita, right? And ultimately, the Ikarei HaEmunah are the things that come from the Torah itself. ועיקר הדברים ככה הם, שהתורה הזאת חוקיה ומשפטיה לעולם ולמי עולמים, ואין מוסיפין עליהם ולא גורעין מהם.
Right?
And that's not what you're doing.
Why?
You're mosif and gorea.
How? What did I do right now? That's Mosif and Gorah. But again, going back to Rabbi Akiva. So just, he's wrong, right? He was a fool for doing it. He shouldn't have done it. He would have been on Jacob, on his greatest hits. It was like, what a fool.
I know many people who have mistaken the wrong person for being the right person. Bechezkat Mashiach. There's no there. The only problem is when that person dies and you can't accept it. That's the problem.
Another issue, and that's why I don't look at Israel as this is it. Like we got that. But you should. But I think it's bananas that you look at it. Not only is it not it, just like not only is it positive, it's negative.
I think after reading Perfidy and learning about Mishpat Kastner, that's all I can think of. That's the only way I can think of those people who did.
Do you know that when the Israelites left Egypt, like you said, the Chamushim, a lot of the tribe of Ephraim died. And do you know when we came to the land?
Chazi,
yeah.
Please don't go down this road. Because you're going to get me very upset. You're going to make me incredibly upset if you're going to start being matzdik Rashaim like that.
I'm not matzdik Rashaim. I'm explaining to you that, like, at what point?
No, it was fine. It was fine. A few people, you break some eggs. You break some eggs to make an omelet.
I didn't say you break some eggs, but God did destroy everyone in the flood, right? Like I use like this goes back to you saying it's falling from the sky, right? The temple falls from the sky. Like, does that mean like are any changes happening? Like, are there a lot of these bad things when good things happen?
I can't have this discussion with you right now.
All right, sir. Have a good day. Take care. I actually do have to jump. I give me to get to work. But no, I love you, Jacob. I'm glad that you're making Aliyah. Very exciting. Okay, who did you block? Jimmy Rizzo. Why? What a name.
I have no idea, but it takes a lot to make me block you. So, I mean, if he's blocked, it's probably for a good reason. That I don't have very many people blocked. Let's see, how many people do I have blocked on this StreamYard?
Muslim, Jewish, Christian are all same religion. The difference in morals is what? 5 days to when Jesus died. Oh, okay. Right. He died. Wow. It's a very specific date of Jesus is definitely here on the comment.
Where does it tell me? Where does it tell me where my blocked people are?
This guy is saying he was blocked. Why was he blocked? Hi to Gent in the blue shirt. I guess that's me. 7 a.m. He would let us know that that's oh, and blocked from StreamYard. Maybe for the truth. Bye, weak people.
Banned guests. I guess I have more banned guests than I thought. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There he is, Jimmy Rizzo. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28 people blocked. 2 of them I know have mental health issues. That's why. One of them I know because he's a rabid anti-Semite who says stupid things. Another one because I should probably call that mental health issues
Well,
too.
that's like, maybe we could use the opportunity to like do like the second chance. And like you're going to like, should I ever have taken these people off? Maybe give them another chance.
Did you see how he signed off? By weak people. I don't think he's somebody who needs a second chance.
Jacob,
Has he?
before I go, give me some Noah Torah.
Torah is Parshat Noach.
It was.
It was.
So like we're right in the middle. You could still say Havdalah.
I could still say Havdalah. What is next week's Parsha?
Lech Lecha.
What's after Noach?
Lech Lecha.
Lech lecha me'artzecha. Sounds
Right.
like a great bit of advice. Lech lecha me'artzecha.
Eric Recha. By the way, I mean, like I know you sound a little also like part of those 12, right? Oh, there's giants in the land. Look up where these graves are. We'll never be able to hold it. Too many vitamins.
It's completely different. If Moshe Rabbeinu was leading us, fine. Without Moshe Rabbeinu, there's no
Yeah,
point.
that's also the reason. If you listen to my little weekly portion on Ha'azidin,
Unfortunately I did not get to listen. I've been too preoccupied with American politics.
Moses is not supposed to make it into the land. There's a sense, and even if you look at the days of creation, I won't get into the exact sequence of the words, but there's a word that's used when the completion, when the creation is done, that God uses, and that word is not used um, with regards to man. And in a sense, we're not fully complete yet, right? There's a sense where we're still hishtalmut, we're moving towards completion, and that's true about us as a people as well. Hopefully, I would hope that this period of our people is still us learning, growing. Then this is a sign that obviously Moses warns us about before we go into the land, right? He says, like, don't mess up. And we've unfortunately messed up many a time, so much so that there's even people out there, full religions out there, that felt like promises that were made were revoked. But people don't know this. In tractate whatever, there's a pinky swear between God and Moses, and you can't take back a pinky swear. So everyone knows that it's legit. No, but I think people would see that after 2,000 years, and Jacob and Chedi, these two Jews, could be having these conversations. Clearly, God is alive and kicking in us, in all of us, and to everyone watching this. Guys, we're there. We're getting to the end game. Only less than 200 years left. This is the front row seat to the eschaton.
The eschaton. This was supposed to be a American politics stream. I made the mistake of assuming you weren't as rabid of a crazy Zionist as you are.
Like we said, we hope Donald Trump wins. We hope that him and his team of Avengers govern with wisdom and grace. And
Well, they have to win first.
we hope that the transitions happen in a positive way, that we don't have to deal with another January 6th, that all of us who voted speak to our families and loved ones respectfully and try to understand them and see them. And after many years of, or at least since the last election, 4 years of steel manning and being good faith, now the rubber hits the road. You're going to see a lot of crazy people out there. It's very important to make sure that we see them with grace and be patient with how people are expressing themselves, because these are scary times and changes are happening. Go vote.
Later.
Catch you on the flip. I'm going to leave Steve.
Garth. Hey, how you doing, Garth? Excited? Wow, I just realized I'm gonna be in the middle of Minneapolis. Father Stephen!
I wanted to wait till Hezi was done with his John Hyrcanus impression before.
What impression?
John Hyrcanus,
John
our Hasmonean friend.
Oh.
I mean, I know you guys believe in the transmigration of souls, but seriously, let's calm down a little bit. It's not even Hanukkah yet.
That is hilarious. Okay. How have you been?
Oh, good.
How are things in Louisiana?
Hotter than they should be in November, but it's still in the low 80s and humid.
Garth is getting married this Friday, and I just realized that I am going to be flying into Minneapolis and staying in downtown Minneapolis for 3 days, starting this Thursday.
Okay.
Might be fun.
Now, this is a decent time. It's not too bad there yet, I don't think.
Well, apparently, when I told one of my friends who's from Minneapolis where my Airbnb was, his response was, "Well, that's an interesting neighborhood."
Oh. Yeah, that's another factor.
Yeah. I don't know how the election tomorrow is going to affect what's going to happen. Garth
It's a pretty blue state. It's a pretty blue state.
It is, but apparently I got an Airbnb in a Muslim neighborhood.
Oh. Well, yeah, I don't know. You may be in a Green Party area. That's a lot of the Midwestern Muslims are going Green Party this election.
Well, I mean, the fact is, beyond the battleground states, apparently Minnesota is the most likely to flip. My fantasy is that all the Orthodox Jews in New Jersey are going to flip New Jersey. That would be amazing.
I don't know. I think there's more of them in New York, aren't there? Or do you just consider New York unflippable?
Yeah. Problem. Yeah. The problem is, and I think New Jersey may be more flippable than New York State. Yeah.
I think this is going to end up being unbelievably close again, unfortunately for all of us.
I don't think so.
And I think that because there are people on the other side claiming they're going to flip Texas. Are you aware of this? That's how confident they are.
So
I'm like, somebody's delusional. Maybe it's everybody, right? Well, and this is just going to be really close again.
I trust Nate Silver to some degree. He does say it's going to be close, but he did an analysis of the polls, and he claims the chances that the polls all say the exact same thing the way they've been saying is 1 in 9 trillion.
Yeah.
He's like, the polls are not giving us real information. So the question becomes, why would the polls not be giving us real information?
Yeah, and I'm sure people are floating the same theories as when they turned out to be bull in 2016 and when they
and I mean, so the reason I called this Rogan endorses Trump is I think that's huge.
I'm not as convinced because I think Rogan's audience at this point is a pretty pro-Trump audience anyway.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
You think that they were already Trump voters?
Yes, because I think so. There's been a lot of bifurcation. That audience, I think, used to be more mixed than it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because there were your Sam Harris type. There were more of your Sam Harris types in that audience in the past. There were more of your, but I think a lot of that group is a lot more fragmented now than they were then.
I see. This is the thing. I
don't think there are a lot of people who are fans of Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris now.
Well,
I think people have picked one or the other, right?
Yeah, yes, but what I would say is I think there's a lot of Rogan's audience which isn't political, wasn't voting at all, and may find the fact that Joe Rogan finally felt he needed this is the first time he's endorsed is
well at this stage, yeah, he did endorse Bernie, but and people were crowing about that at the time, like, oh, this is it, he's going to get the nomination because of this.
Well, I think if there was a real election, I think Bernie would have.
He might have, but yeah, primaries aren't real elections anyway, right? I mean, like, I think the actual election is kabuki theater, let alone a primary, like, especially the Democratic primary with the super delegates and the, like,
Well, when Trump won in 2016, he was the first candidate who had not been a politician or in the military. And if Kamala Harris wins tomorrow, she will be the first candidate to win for president without any electoral experience winning an election in the presidential.
That's true, but unlike Gerald Ford, she would have won a presidential election.
Okay.
Gerald Ford was both vice president and president and was never elected to either position.
Yeah. Gerald Ford, yeah.
So, yeah, but yeah.
I mean, Eric Weinstein is very, very concerned because he thinks there's no way the deep state is going to allow Trump to take office.
Oh, no, I mean, 2016 proves that's not true. I think Trump has every intention in the world to drain the swamp like he did last time, but it's just way harder than people think.
Yeah, well, yes.
People think you're electing a king when you elect a president, and it turns out you're not really.
Which is why his little team is that's RFK, simply having RFK Jr. on board. And I think
but you do realize he's a little crazy, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, but that's part of the
right, but I mean,
calculation
he could be put in charge of some things and do a lot of things that Trump supporters would not like. Like he's a rabid environmentalist, right?
Yes. I'm actually kind of an environmentalist myself.
Right, but if he got put in charge of the EPA, he would do the opposite of deregulating, right? Like, he's going to be regulating everything.
Yeah.
So that's the interesting thing with him is I have been wondering what it is that Trump promised him, right, to get him to come over relatively early and endorse him. He promised him some position, but
I'm thinking probably either FDA or agriculture.
Yeah, which agriculture wouldn't be so bad. FDA could be bad.
I mean, agriculture could theoretically be very bad.
Depending on how far he takes it. But
yeah.
But yeah, that's one of the things. Everyone is so convinced they know what Trump's going to do, and I'm like, I think you think you know what Trump's going to do better than Trump knows what he's going to do.
I 100% agree with that.
Like,
Yeah.
I think it is more likely that Donald Trump might get a wild hair one day when someone has a meeting with him and forgive my student loan debt than it is that Biden or Harris ever would, because they don't believe in it. Right? Like, Trump could have someone come to him and say, hey, you know what would really stick it to all those liberal arts colleges and those liberal professors? If you forgave student loan debt and stopped certifying student loans with the federal government.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, yeah, let's stick it to him and do it. You know?
So Elon started this little campaign of stop MAGA, require voter ID.
Yeah. But yeah. And the Democrats, as usual, are the party of the status quo.
Which is strange.
Do you like how things are? Okay.
I mean, I remember when Obama ran on Change and Hope.
Yeah. Then we got neither.
This is true. Yeah.
We got basically, yeah. Yeah, so this is one of the reasons why I'm sort of have doomer takes on the whole red team, blue team thing, because I've gotten old and seen a lot of this. And right, you know, like you've got the people panicking about Project 2025. And I'm like, yeah, you know, that came from the Heritage Foundation. You know what else came from the Heritage Foundation? Obamacare. Yes.
Like, no, I mean the whole Project 2025. Honestly, I doubt you listened to the Elon Musk Joe Rogan discussion today.
No, I have a lot less affection for Elon Musk than you do.
So
I have a very different relationship as a Dutch person who grew up in the 80s with South Africa than you do, I think.
Oh, well.
Is part of that.
I didn't realize that was prominent. The thing with that conversation was it was a conversation between two people who were operating with the same facts as I do. Right? So when he brought up, for example, Obama's tweet about fine people on both sides, which Obama tweeted that today. Both of them were like, how could he lie so blatantly on something that's been debunked? And the vast majority of people I encounter in real life, like, they believe the fine people hoax, and they would think I was crazy if I told them that it's been debunked.
Right, because debunking isn't objective anymore. Just like debunking the eating cats in Ohio thing.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody comes and tells you, oh, that's been debunked. Well, J.D. Vance doubles down on it because debunking doesn't mean anything anymore.
Well, J.D. Vance, so he's been playing...
Well, I know he said, if I have to tell a story, if I have to admit a story,
exactly.
It's like, so you're admitting you made it up?
Yeah. No. This is actually J.D. Vance's, I think this is how J.D. Vance made peace with Donald Trump being as crazy as he is
with having called Trump Hitler in the past. Yes.
He
publicly
he thinks Trump is able to cut through the noise, right? So and frankly, I do something of that sort myself sometimes, where there's enough distortion that you compensate for the distortion.
I don't know. I think most of the right in this country is just completely postmodern. Like you said, it's not really conservative anymore.
Well, Trumpism is definitely postmodern.
Yeah. And I think J.D. Vance is it's like, yeah, I called him Hitler. That's what I was against him. Now I'm for him. So he's a visionary.
I don't
right?
I don't think that's how J.D. Vance thinks of it to himself.
Well, I don't know how he thinks it. I can't claim. I don't know what it's like to be J.D. Vance.
Correct. From listening to J.D. Vance, that's the impression I've got.
He comes out and says things, and then basically admits it's not true, but says, "But me saying that was important anyway."
Yeah.
That to me is a textbook sort of postmodern move, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, no, and this is one of the things that I say.
And if you're a postmodern, it's fine, right? And yeah, the other side is mostly modernists. It's not like that's better.
Right. Like, okay, so we're not going to go back to pre-modernism,
right? Yeah,
right. So we're all postmodern now.
Sort of, yeah.
I mean, I have been trying to talk about Vervaeke's a post-nominalist Neoplatonism. I'm not sure.
I'm anti-Platonism. So.
What? Even Neoplatonism? Come on.
Neoplatonism is just bootleg Christianity. It's like you order Christianity off Wish and you get Neoplatonism. Okay, like
this is true, but I say Neoplatonism is a Kabbalistic lab leak.
Right. Okay. So it's bootleg Judaism. Fine. However we want to look at it.
Yeah. No.
If you've got the real deal, you don't need the bootleg, right? Like.
Like as far as I'm concerned, like, so I have said I have never studied Plotinus. I have no reason to study Plotinus. People tell me that Plotinus agrees with the stuff that I believe. So I'm like, yay.
Yeah, sort of. So Plotinus, Porphyry, who was his teacher, was one of the great pagan philosophical critics of Christianity when Christianity was on the rise in the 3rd century.
Right.
And so Plotinus's Neoplatonism is a deliberate recrafting of Platonism to borrow Christian concepts of redemption and these kind of things and use them within Platonism to try to compete.
Okay.
Right? It's sort of the marketplace of ideas where Platonism was losing.
Yeah.
Right. So
no, I mean, look, I believe in gradual transition of like towards the truth.
Yeah, and some of that language that they were stealing from Christianity was actually language that Christianity had gotten from Judaism. So
yeah.
There's actually a really good article. I know Daniel Boyarin is not your favorite guy, right? But because of that era. But
lately there was a quote somebody gave, which I was like, that man's a heretic. But yeah.
But in terms of his scholarship, he has a great article where he argues that Philo wasn't really a middle Platonist, right? Sort of the rap on Philo is he sort of,
somewhat
was basically a Platonist, and he sprinkled a little Judaism in there, right?
Right.
He argues the opposite. He argues that he was really Jewish, and there's some Platonism sprinkled in there, that he sort of Judaized Platonism rather than Platonizing Judaism.
So what I have been told by people who are Philo experts is Philo makes it very clear sometimes that he didn't know Hebrew.
Probably. Didn't know it well. Yeah. I think he knew it about as well as St. Jerome did. Meaning he could have the Hebrew text there and the Greek text there and sort of work his way through the Hebrew by referring to the Greek.
Our good friend Sam has a bout of insomnia. You should jump on, Sam. Thought this was about Trump. It turns out Father Stephen DeYoung is talking about Plotinus. But that is
Sam and I agree about Plotinus and Neoplatonism. I think we actually agree about it.
The two of us, or Sam, or
me and
Trump.
Sam, agree about it over against Vervaeke, I think.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, this came up when I was talking to Sam on his channel the last time.
So the only value I see in the words Neoplatonism is I just don't want to ever hear the word Kabbalism again.
Oh yeah. Well, see, I thought that would die when Madonna started doing it. Like that would just sort of kill the whole thing.
Yeah, well,
Now that this is a pop thing that celebrities do, no one would want to be associated with the term. But turns out,
the Kabbalah Center is actually a lot more. They've started being less cultish over the past few years, which has made them much more popular. Which I don't know how I feel about that. Like, it's like I used to be able to say they're just a cult, and I can't. From what I understand, they don't sell Kabbalah water anymore, which is a step forward.
they are to Judaism what Richard Gere is to Buddhism, maybe.
Well, yeah. They are no longer to Judaism what Scientology is to
Whatever Scientology is related to.
Yeah.
The science fiction novels. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sam says Philo might have been a Platonist. Father Stephen the Young and I mostly agree about Plotinus. So there you go.
Yeah. I thought that was the case.
Yeah.
So at least there's that. We may disagree about a lot of other things, but
yeah,
we go back to Plotinus and probably Breakfast at Tiffany's, but he's probably not old enough to get that reference. So.
I was just yesterday telling someone about your new book.
Hawking my book. Thank
yes.
You. I don't like to self-chill, so I count on people like you.
So how has the feedback been? Any torches? Anyone?
Not yet. Somebody left a 2-star rating on Goodreads with no review. That's the only negative feedback I've gotten so far.
That's it.
Everything else has been positive so far, and I can report with some confidence, it has so far outsold the new edition of the Player's Handbook.
Wow.
So that may say more about the current direction of Wizards of the Coast than it does about my book.
Yeah, it does. Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast has been going downhill for a while, and I think they're going to self-destruct. Father Stephen, have you heard of Kim Iverson? This post of hers on Twitter got 3.7 million views, 5,000 likes, 5.8 thousand.
The name is vaguely familiar, but I have no idea from where.
She's a podcaster.
Oh,
I think you're going to love.
Is she related to Allen Iverson?
I have no clue. The brilliant Kim Iverson says, I will never concede this. The notion that Jesus was a Jew only came into prominence after World War II. For literally nearly...
Well, technically he was a Galilean.
Wait.
Okay. Not a Judean. I mean, if you want to be super technical.
For literally nearly 2,000 years, this was not a thought except in fringe academic circles beginning in the mid-19th century. And now, many just accept it as fact. It is not. Jesus was not a Jew in any sense.
Oh, in any sense? None. Zero.
His father, God, wasn't a Jew. And being Jewish back then was patrilineal. Mary was from Galilee. Jesus was born in Bethlehem, yes, but was raised in Nazareth. Plenty of Arabs today are born in Bethlehem and even in Nazareth, the largest Arab city in Israel, and are not considered Jews. Jesus was considered a heretic and was persecuted and killed for bringing forward a new religion, Christianity.
Yeah.
A religion he worked hard to get all Jews to convert to, and if it were up to him, all Jews would have done so, and there would be no Jews today. People claim Jesus was a Jew because he participated in some Jewish rituals and taught in synagogues, yet they fail to realize that there were no Christian churches at the time for Jesus to teach in. And Jesus was working very specifically to convert Jews. He was literally persecuted and condemned to death by Jews for being a heretic, and no amount of whitewashing can change this fact. Jesus was not a Jew. He was very much a Christian.
What?
I understand why it has
That's an
been
ethnicity now. I guess
pushed since World War II that he was a Jew in order to tamp down on anti-Semitism in Christian countries. But Jesus doesn't clearly fit within the bounds of any actual definition of what makes a Jew a Jew. And yes, this is
Yes.
November 1st.
So this is actually an anti-Semitic trope that arose in the 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th century in Germany, which is when this whole Christianity was a new religion thing started, and St. Paul and Jesus completely disagreed. That's where all this comes from, and they tried to use St. Paul as this wedge, right? To say, oh no, see, it's a new religion. They don't like Judaism, right? This is all, yeah.
Yeah. So,
But okay.
Yeah. Sam says, the Samaritan woman said to him, how is it that you, a Jew, ask for a drink from me, a woman of Samaria? For Jews have no dealings with Samaritans. You worship what you do not know. We worship what we know, for salvation is from the Jews. And I would probably...
Yeah, but the Gospel of John is Jewish propaganda.
I would add some choice quotes about trembling from Romans 10. But yeah, that's me.
Oh wait, no, the same people said St. John's Gospel was not Jewish at all.
Yeah, so
it must have been edited. There must be multiple sources, a pro-Jewish source and an anti-Jewish source behind St. John's Gospel. We'll name them.
I agree with
we'll
that.
do critical editions.
It just amazes me that this is a discussion on Twitter. With 3.5 million views.
Most of Twitter right now is racism of some sort.
Yeah,
I hate to tell you.
I've noticed.
I had this revealed to me fully recently when I went not long after the book came out. I said, "Hey, I wonder if people are talking about my book on Twitter."
Okay.
So I went to Twitter, which I'm going to keep dead naming. Sorry, Elon Musk. And searched for, in quotation marks, Paul the Pharisee.
Okay.
I got a lot of results, almost none of which were about my book. And were all these anti-Semitic rants about Paul, the devious Pharisee Jew, had destroyed Christianity.
Oh yeah, the red ice crowd, the neo-pagans. Yes. So
I was just like, oh, so this is why I was never on Twitter.
For the people who are not aware, Christianity is a psyop by the Pharisees to control the Gentiles.
Yeah, I mean they're building that off Nietzsche, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, speaking of Nietzsche, thank you for sending me the link, but it's not live yet.
No, it goes live Wednesday morning.
See, I sat down ready to click on the link, and I clicked on the link, and it says...
I love the weird look I'm giving Peterson in the thumbnail, though.
Well, let's see. You are correct. That is an interesting look you have on your face. Yeah, that is.
I have no idea where exactly that's from or what he's saying at that moment that might be occasioning that look, but.
Well, I mean, just the fact that he just decided to come on stage was kind of weird.
And take over my Q&A session. Yeah. But I think from the looks of it, I think Peugeot has decided to release that one for free
Yeah.
to get people to buy like the digital pack of all the other talks.
That's what the pinned quote is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I think is the aim. So there's another time where I had a conversation with him on stage for like an hour and a half about sacrifice, but I guess that's in the pay bundle. So you just get to see me sort of dance with him when he comes on stage.
I remember that
because he's a close talker.
Yeah.
So,
So Sam wants to know: does Father Stephen DeYoung has FSDY become your new acronym?
pretty much everyone does. It's either FRSDY or FSDY.
Okay, so FSDY has
and SDY. What those were my arcade initials.
Okay,
as a
there
kid,
you go.
so it's legit.
There you go. So do you endorse Trump or even or possibly even Rogan?
I mentioned, I don't know if you saw it in the chat. I am actually an elector for a third-party candidate who I helped get on the ballot in Louisiana.
Really?
So yes. So in the very unlikely event that the state of Louisiana goes to that candidate, I go to the Electoral College and cast the vote for the 3rd Congressional District of Louisiana.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What's the name of this candidate?
I can't say publicly. I can tell you later, but
really?
Yeah, because I'm a pastor and stuff. I can't.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see.
Go right endorsing people.
I see. Okay. But we would be able to look that up. I mean, it's public information who the electors are, right?
Probably you could find it somewhere. Yeah, somebody could if they really were motivated.
Yeah.
I'll tell you privately, but
I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have enough. Whatchamacallits, stalkers. Yeah.
out there looking for it right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it is an extremely unlikely event that I will be going to the Electoral College.
A third-party candidate in Louisiana. Yeah, I don't see it happening. I do not see it happening. Yeah.
Hypothetically.
Okay. Interesting. I did not think you would be a third-party type guy.
Oh yeah. No, there's. Yeah.
Huh. No, I mean, I thought you would be like, well, third party, you're just completely wasting your time.
Well, voting in Louisiana, you're completely wasting your time. I mean, you're voting in California, you're wasting your time. Right?
I will tell you why I vote in California. Because
to me, right, this gives me an excuse to vote third party, right? I can vote my conscience. I can try and send a message.
I don't even bother with the actual votes. I mean, I fill some of them out, but I send it in because there is a public record of whether or not you voted. And when you get polled, they ask you if you voted. And the polls that pay the most are the ones that actually check to see if you voted or not. Yeah, ever since I was in high school and I worked for a market research firm, I actually sign up to do polls and stuff.
Yeah,
it's fun and you get all kinds of perks.
Well, in California also you have ballot propositions and stuff that actually
they're not
via direct democracy.
Yeah, they're not polling me about my views about the presidential candidate.
That's doesn't matter as much, but those other things can matter.
Yeah,
to everyday life a whole lot more.
I have no idea what any of these names mean, but you might. Regarding Neoplatonism, Dr. Christopher Benjamin, okay, has a great lecture series on YouTube under the Mount Tabor Academy, which is an Orthodox Christian station.
Yeah.
So who is do you actually know this Dr.?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. He got his PhD at Oxford.
Okay, seems like a good place.
So that tells you, and did his dissertation on the Transfiguration in the homilies of St. Gregory Palamas.
I mean,
before those were translated into English.
Is his name actually Benjamin, as in Benjamin? Is that the root
Yes,
of it?
yeah, he's
Okay.
Cypriot.
Okay.
He's Cypriot. So it's
Yeah.
that's gone
Okay.
through the Greek wash into English.
Okay.
Yeah, he's Cypriot, and then they moved to England where he grew up. So Rowan Williams, like the former Archbishop of Canterbury, was on his dissertation committee.
Ooh,
Like,
nice.
so yeah, he generally knows what he's talking about. That's...
Don says Eastern Orthodoxy kind of seems like the third party of Christianity in the U.S., so it totally makes sense.
There you go. Filing the Minority Report.
There, yeah. You're a third party Christian now. I'm not sure you would agree with that. First part.
Well, I mean, we are a definite minority here, yeah, but and it is mostly the Protestants and the Roman Catholics arguing with each other and pretending we don't exist.
Well, I mean,
so there's that too.
to be frank, like, I'm guessing a majority of people in the United States have no clue what it means to be an Eastern Orthodox Christian.
Yeah. Protestants just think we're weird Catholics, and
they figure you're some order of Catholicism.
Yeah, and Catholics are just generally kind of confused because we're obviously not Protestants, but like really, I've shown up in the live chat of Roman Catholic apologists, and they literally sort of don't know
really
how to react.
Apologists?
Yeah.
That surprises me. I'm actually having I don't know if you know Gideon. He goes by the Byzantine Scotist.
Yeah.
Do you know him?
I don't know him.
So
that title is highly
so he used to be, so he was raised conservative Jewish. He converted to Eastern Orthodoxy, and then he converted to Catholicism. So and now he's a Catholic,
right Roman Catholic,
I guess. Yeah. And
felt like he didn't have enough Pope in his life, wanted everything else to say the same, but really needed Pope Francis. I mean, hey, if that's what floats your boat, cool.
Well, I actually
don't see how being in communion with Pope Francis would benefit me, but
I did hear his conversion story. Part of it was, I think he had an apparition or something, but another part of it was he really feels that the main thing of Christianity is evangelizing the nations, and he says the Roman Catholic Church has done that more than any other denomination.
Okay.
I mean, it is
a different definition of evangelize than me, but cool. I mean, they evangelized a lot of Jews in Europe in the Middle Ages. They evangelized a lot of the natives in Central and South America.
And Africa. Yeah. That was one of the things I'm probably going to. But this thing of you're Orthodox, I didn't know you were Jewish. I have heard from more than one.
Oh no, I was in not long after I joined the Orthodox Church, I was in a little fender bender.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this at the time a license plate frame that said 2,000 years of Orthodox Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And in between the words Orthodox and Christianity was a Byzantine cross.
Okay.
So I'm in this fender bender. Guy bumps me from behind.
Mm-hmm.
Old guy insists on calling the police about this. So I'm like, okay, fine. Got to have a police report. So we're standing there.
Mm-hmm.
He looks at it, reads it,
mm-hmm.
turns to me and says, so I see you're Jewish. But like, it literally says Christianity. Like,
Yeah, but it's a Byzantine cross.
it literally has a cross. It says Christianity, right?
Were you wearing your pectoral cross?
No, this is before I was
Oh,
ordained.
you were ordained. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But still, right?
Yeah. I know.
That's almost as bad as, because since Antiochian, right?
Right.
I was at the time going to the church in Shreveport.
Okay.
Okay, and the priest there told me that right after 9/11, this is like the early 2000s, these people came out from Barksdale Air Force Base to the church and wanted to interview people there to see if any of them had known anything about the attacks.
Right.
Because they were from the Middle East.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's kind of going, do you see this picture? This is a picture of Jesus. This is a cross. Like the one Jesus died on, according to Christians, not Muslims, importantly.
I'm not sure they would know that.
I know.
As Colin Powell said, the State Department had a desk called The Stands.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been playing that goodbye clip with you and Cedric.
Yeah.
At the end of pretty much all of my videos lately. And unfortunately, what YouTube does is
it makes that the thumbnail.
Yes. And I get people, hey, I thought you had Father Stephen on because your picture's right on there, you know?
It's the bait and switch.
Not on purpose. Not on purpose. Yeah. I guess I won't play that one, so you'll actually show up on the thing. Did you listen to David Bentley Hart's Christology lectures?
Not if they were recent.
I didn't know he had a Christology.
Yeah.
I don't actually know much about David.
I'm really uninterested in anything DBH has to say about theology at this point.
Is he? I'm guessing he's Protestant.
He still sometimes, not always, but sometimes says he's Orthodox.
Okay.
That was the church he was last a member of.
Okay.
But he hasn't darkened the doorstep of one in more than 2 decades. So, you know, I mean, he hasn't become anything else. Although in an interview not that long ago, he said if he had it to do all over again, instead of becoming Orthodox, he would have become a Sikh.
Really?
Just gives me a hysterical visual image of him with the turban and the knife and everything. But
Sikh. Interesting.
Yeah, it's because he's basically just a Platonist. He's basically just a kind of ethical monotheist who wants to have no actual ritual religious demands of any kind on his life at all.
The Sikhs have a lot of ritual.
I know, but he doesn't know anything about the Sikhs, so, you know.
Apparently.
He knows if he actually became a Jew, you know, he'd have to stop eating bacon or something. He doesn't want that, right?
Yeah.
So, but he's basically just a monotheist and a Platonist, and
he could be a Noahide. There you go.
Yeah, he probably doesn't know about that. But if you pitched it to him, he'd probably go for it.
So Sam apparently liked these lectures.
Well, that tells me that I probably wouldn't. But anyway, yeah, Sam and I have slightly different Christologies.
Yeah, but Sam, despite the fact he's right and you're wrong,
I don't think you actually think he's right. You may think he's more right, but I don't think you actually agree with him, because I know how his Christology ends up.
Yeah, I mean
right.
Yeah.
It ends up a little closer to mine than it starts out, but
I actually think the monarchical trinity is less strange than where Sam ends up by himself, kind of. Although he's become very close to a monarchical Trinitarian, I think. Sam wants to know where we think his Christology ends up. You end up with somebody who's not God having all the keys in heaven. That's a problem. That's what I would say.
Yeah. I mean, it's not adoptionism in the classical sense in terms of the actual views that was used for in the early church, but it's a form of that in that Christ ends up being a divinized man.
Yeah. Mm.
That I think, give or take. I mean, I know there's nuance, I know there's details, Sam, but I think that's roughly it from our conversations, at least.
So, Father Stephen, what did you want to talk about?
Oh, I was just coming on because I hadn't been on in a while, and the tone of your email made me feel sad, like I'd abandoned you.
Oh, I did ask, like, how you've been. People have been asking about the Romans thing. Like, it's funny. There are several people who are kind of excited at the idea of that Roman stream we were going to do. So if and when you can figure out a time, that would be nice to do. Yeah. So Sam says, didn't the adoptionists who never mentioned the word adoption also believe Jesus was a divinized man?
Yeah, that's why I said it's kind of a version of that, even though it's different from the actual views that were called that.
So adoptionism, I'm guessing, is an official heresy.
Well, it's a category of views of Christology to basically describe views where Jesus is born as a regular human, and then at some point in his life, or death, or resurrection, right, sort of becomes the Son of God. And that's why, as Sam said, they don't use the word adoption, but that was used to, instead of being the begotten Son of God, he's the adopted son. Right.
Yeah, I don't know how that works with the virgin birth. Like he's obviously not a normal human being unless you think virgin births have happened multiple times. Which you might if that's how you read Isaiah.
Well, no, I think it just means young woman in Isaiah, and they're pointing at a particular young woman.
And
she had a baby, and that baby was named.
I have definitely heard of people who, of course, you can find a Protestant who believes virtually anything.
Yes, yeah, literally, yeah.
So Bill is apparently one of the guys who's been pestering me about the Roman stream.
Yeah, no, I do want to do that. It's a scheduling thing at this point.
And apparently they want you to also write a book about it.
About the first half of Romans chapter 7?
Apparently.
It's covered in the current book.
Yeah, actually, you have a whole
you can read that, and then, if you have further questions. Yeah, wait for a Q&A show on Lord of Spirits and call in. Ask your questions.
I haven't actually... I think I tried looking it up. The thing is, you don't have chapters and verses, and I don't know. Yeah. I don't know the.
You don't know Romans well enough to be able to just sort of skim to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Another epistle to the Corinthians. Ooh, they did one fancy thing.
Yeah, no, that's I asked them to do that.
I was expecting a map.
There are maps.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't.
It's in the first part of the book.
No,
like there's a map of Jerusalem in there.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yes, it was actually a very cool person in their kids' book division, an artist in their kids' book division, hand drew the maps.
Okay, there you go. We're hawking your book after all.
I guess so.
Yeah, it's at the beginning of the chapters. Interesting. Yeah, I just skimmed through it.
Well, you had already
Yeah.
had access to most of the content. At least at one stage in the editing. There was a lot of editing after that.
See, now I'm going to have to read the whole book again.
See what got edited?
Yeah.
There was very little that was edited on my translations.
Okay.
Because there started to be a little bit that I just said, hey, look, like it's deliberately different than other English translations you're going to look at. So if I have to go through verse by verse and say, no, I want it that way. No, I want it that way. No, I want it that way. This is going to take forever. So they just kind of didn't do a lot of it other than like typos and grammatical stuff. They didn't do a lot of editing on the translations.
There we go. I think I found it. Brothers. And now I am talking to those of you who know the Torah. Are you not aware that the Torah governs a person during the time they are alive? A married woman is bound by the Torah to her living husband. If her husband dies, she is freed from the Torah's commandments of marriage regarding marriage. If her husband is alive, she is an adulteress if she is with another man. If her husband dies, she is free from the Torah's commandments on marriage and not an adulteress if she marries another man. My brothers, in the same way, through the body of the Messiah, you have died with respect to the commandments of the Torah. You belong to the Messiah who has been raised from the dead so that you would live a life pleasing to God. While we were living our old lives, the sinful passions that we knew about through the Torah worked through us to bring about the result of death. Now we have been set free from the sins we committed under the Torah. We died to those sins that bound us so that we can serve God in a new life through the Spirit, not in the old way according to identifying sins and trespasses through the Torah. I still don't see it. Are you surprised?
Well, no, because I didn't. That translation doesn't clarify the metaphor.
Yeah.
Which is what you really want, is to clarify the metaphor.
Yeah, I mean, if you're making an analogy, like, what's the analogy?
Yeah.
Father Stephen, do you ever sleep?
Very little.
Apparently. Yeah.
So. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I just naturally didn't need much sleep or if I've just conditioned myself to it over the course of my life. Like,
no, as you get older, physiologically, you end up needing less sleep.
Well, I've never slept much though. Like,
okay, yeah, some people need less sleep than other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, Donald Trump is that way too. So that's another thing you have in common with Donald Trump.
Besides what? What were the other ones?
I
mean, like, I would have liked to have had a dad who left me $250 million. That would have been cool thing to have in common with him. I would have.
You have your finger on the pulse of the culture. There you go.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. And still, though, a lot fewer people listen to Lord of Spirits than used to watch The Apprentice.
This is true. This is true.
I mean, we're doing well. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah,
We're not
Are you
doing
with me?
NBC primetime numbers.
Are you with me that we need to get rid of daylight savings time?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, that's and every 4 years they try to in Congress, and it descends into an argument between people who want to end it and keep it daylight savings time all the time, and people who want to end it and keep it standard time all the time, and they can never agree about that, and so it never happens, and we just keep having this stupid time change.
Yeah. and honestly, what kills me is like they've calculated the excess deaths caused by daylight savings time,
Yeah.
and it's greater than 0.
Yeah.
So literally people are dying because of daylight savings time.
It's just like who cares which one? Just flip a coin.
It
right?
doesn't even matter.
Everybody decide. All of Congress get together.
Although
flip a coin.
apparently,
Democrats flip it. Republicans call it.
well, apparently both Hawaii and Florida decided to stay on daylight savings time.
Yeah, they don't do it in Arizona. They don't. A bunch of states have gotten rid of it.
It was
Florida,
on the
I think,
ballot.
got rid of it. Yeah,
it was on the ballot in California, and it failed.
That's bizarre.
I was very surprised because I was at a
Were the
Republican...
teachers' unions against it or something? Is that what happened?
They may have also been, but I was at a Republican meeting where there was a guy who was like going through the recommendations, and he recommended against it, and I was like, "Why are you doing this?" And I tried having an argument with him, and he's like, "It just seems like another silly thing," and on principle, he was against anything being done that was different or new.
Okay, yeah, I just need to leave a true Democrat, just status quo, right? Like
he seriously said, unless I am convinced that something needs to like change, I will vote against it.
Yeah, anything you change will probably make things worse. So just
leave
everything the way it is.
Yeah.
My dad was a teacher in California, and he was very happy to be a member of the union in terms of his salary and benefits, the pension my mom has now that he's gone. But every time they sent him a voting guide, he voted the opposite way on every single thing.
I have definitely picked up voter guides in order to vote the opposite way. Like as far as the judges in Los Angeles go, like there's no conservative judges, so you just have to find somebody who tells you who the most left-wing judge is, so you can vote against them.
Right. That's well, it's the opposite of Texas. When I lived in Texas, you'd have these. Even here in Louisiana, our local congressional race was like 2 Republicans, a Libertarian, and a Democrat.
Well, we have
the Democrat had about the same chances as the Libertarian, right? Maybe a little less. That was,
now with the jungle primaries we have in California, it's like forget it. It's Democrat versus Democrat for any statewide office.
Yeah. Well, yeah. See, they do runoffs here. So first round is everybody's on the ballot. They basically don't have a primary. They throw everybody on the ballot, and then unless somebody gets over 50% of the vote, they do a runoff between the top 2. So the runoffs usually in Louisiana end up being 2 different Republicans.
Yeah. So very similar to ours.
Yeah.
So Bill's asking a serious question.
Okay.
Does Orthodoxy see a stronger connection between a person and their deceased spouse than Rabbinic Judaism? Is Torah condescension? I have no idea what that question means. Does Rabbinic Judaism have restrictions on remarriage? I will say I was very...
You can answer the Judaism part.
I was very surprised to hear I spoke to a transitional deacon in, no, a permanent deacon in the Catholic Church. And I said, well, why are you a permanent deacon? Why don't you get ordained? And he said, well, I could, but my wife died and I just did not feel like I should. He felt like it somehow would be denigrating to her to get ordained, which I didn't quite understand, but I had a lot of respect for him for like carrying that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that has to do. You can ask Father Eric to explain that to you, because I'll do it uncharitably. You effectively, in order to get ordained, if you're married, have to have your marriage kind of annulled.
Ooh.
In the Roman Catholic Church.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so I could definitely understand why he would feel that way. Right.
Wow, you have to get the marriage annulled?
Yeah.
It's not enough that you're a widower?
Yeah.
Oh. Now I understand a lot better.
They used to do this thing where you could, but you had to split from your spouse. And they usually had to go join a convent.
Well, yeah, but this is somebody who had passed away.
Yeah, this is someone who's gone. Yeah.
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 So as far as restrictions on remarriage, somebody who is a Kohen, which, yes, Judaism does have castes. Somebody who is a Kohen cannot marry a divorcee. And that's the only really restriction on remarriage I can think of.
Can he marry a widow?
So
even if she, and does it matter if she was married to someone other than a Kohen?
I don't believe it matters if she was married to someone other than a Kohen. As far as the widow thing, I thought it was just the high priest who was not allowed to marry widows. If I remember correctly, I might not. These are not laws that I have actually paid much attention to, but let's see. And nowadays there are all kinds of rabbinic workarounds.
Yeah.
Well,
see, we have kind of the same. The Orthodox Church, we have the canons, and then we have how those canons are typically applied by bishops in the current day, right?
Yeah.
Just like you have rabbinic rulings on, right? Yeah.
Yeah. A Kohen is not allowed to marry a divorcee, a convert, or someone classified as a zonah. It doesn't say anything about a widow. Chalutza, which is a woman who underwent yibum, is actually considered a divorcee. That's the yeah.
And obviously, I'm assuming levirate marriage is no longer a widespread practice.
So it
maybe
was
in some ultra Orthodox circles, maybe.
Well, I mean, so what happened was about 50 years ago, somebody did not want to do chalitza. He wanted to go ahead and marry his brother's widow. And it was a huge controversy in which Rabbi Ovadia Yosef said that he is allowed to do so. And that caused a lot of controversy in the chief rabbinate in Israel. Ashkenazim absolutely do not. Sephardim generally do not. But there was this one case of somebody who was like, no, this doesn't, like, I don't think the Torah, like, is like a chalitza is not exactly a lechatchila thing to do. Yeah. So I don't know. Does Orthodoxy see a stronger connection between?
See, strong. That's the comparative, right? So, yeah, in the Orthodox Church, so how to come at this? We did a marriage episode of Lord of Spirits where we talked about this, because you can find Orthodox churches like in the Church Fathers who will say, this is why I think the Church Fathers are more like the Talmud than you give them credit for being. You will, I mean, all the canon laws are obviously if someone's widowed, they can remarry unless they're clergy. Widowed clergy, the normal rule is you can't, but bishops can make exceptions in particular cases in applying that, right? So there are circumstances when, and not just individual circumstances. So the most common time there's an exception for that is, for example, a priest's wife dies and he's got young children, right? Then the bishop will give him permission to remarry, right? That's the most common.
To remarry?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the most common situation in which that exception is made.
Okay.
It's not always made at all, but that's the most common one. But there have even been, so in Serbia after World War I, so many people were killed. So much of the population was wiped out by war. And there were so many broken families and stuff that he gave blanket permission. The Patriarch of Serbia gave blanket permission for a period of, I think it was 2 or 3 years. Okay. For any clergy who felt like they needed to be remarried because of their circumstances. Okay. To do so. He gave sort of a window, right, to say, you know, but normally clergy are forbidden to remarry when widowed. Everyone else is, it's considered the ideal to not remarry, but remarriage is allowed, and there's a different service that's done than the first marriage. But
crowns or no crowns?
I've only done one of those once. I think there were crowns. Okay. If you get permission to do a third marriage, that's the most you could do. There are no crowns in the third one. Okay. And the third one is not actually done in the church. Oh. It is not done with guests. It is not done with, because it's sort of an acknowledgement that, okay, if we're doing a third marriage for someone, something's gone really wrong here, right? Yeah. Yeah. So this is not really a public thing to celebrate. This is the right thing to do. The bishop has decided, but we're just going to do it and get it done. So that's the case in terms of the rules and in terms of the practice, but you'll find plenty of church fathers saying that marriage is eternal, in the sense that once two people's souls and bodies are united, they're united. Right. And death pulls that apart, but it's temporarily because we believe in the bodily resurrection. Right. And so you could read that as a tension, right, between the two. Right. You could try to do the shenanigans that the Sadducees did with Jesus and say, you know, oh, levirate marriage. This one woman was married to 7 brothers. Who's the husband in the, you know, but really there's something I think really much more simple than that. Right. And that's the case that, like, does anyone really think that after the resurrection, like, you're just not going to remember your wife, right? You're not going to remember all the time you spent, the years you spent together. You're not going to remember all the joys. You're not going to remember praying together. You're not going to, like, you're just going to forget all that. You're just going to be like two strangers. Right. Right. People have this bad case of sort of Plato brain about the afterlife. Like, we're all going to be these floating soul spheres or something. And, like, we're gonna lose our identity, and we're gonna,
Yeah,
the bodily resurrection seems to be pretty tied up in the idea that no, we're still going to maintain our identity, right? Otherwise, the bodily part of it wouldn't really mean much, right? Like,
well, I mean, okay, I have to say, I think in this sense, especially with the idea of transmigration of souls and stuff, right? Like, yes, we believe in a bodily resurrection, but and I sent this to you. The Maimonides in his introduction to chapter 10 of Sanhedrin, like, he spends a pretty long time making fun of, and he specifically says, people who ask about, like, when the resurrection happens, how old are you going to be?
oh yeah, no, yeah, no. But I'm just talking about identity, right? Like,
yeah, I mean,
Lord willing, you and I both have part of the life of the world to come, right? Yeah. You're still going to be Jacob. I'm still going to be right. Father Stephen, at least in some real sense, right? Like,
right. I mean, again, I think
otherwise it seems like it's not really a resurrection, right?
I think Judaism's just a lot more vague. Like, every time I hear Christians argue post-mill, a-mill, and what's the
no, that's all. No, that's how.
But like,
yeah,
you guys really end up getting into so much more detail than we do.
That's an intra-Protestant debate.
I understand that, but like, Christians spend a lot of time. I think it might be the influence of the Book of Revelation.
I think this is a Western Eastern thing. I think this is a scholasticism thing, and Western Christianity got far more into taxonomies and categorizing things, and
yeah. I mean, it's as far as the prophecy, like what the resurrection is going to look like.
Yeah,
an
Orthodox person would tell you we have no real idea.
Okay. Yeah, that's the type
we have images and comparisons and illusions, but if you take them literally, they get goofy. So
exactly. Yeah. That's
that's the Orthodox perspective on it. I mean, if I want to really be a rabble rouser, I'll point out that Roman Catholic eschatology makes no sense. Like, it literally makes no sense.
Why?
Thomas Aquinas' eschatology makes no sense. Now, I'll give Thomas Aquinas an out.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't write the third part of the Summa. It was compiled from his notes after his death.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that it's self-contradictory. Okay, so on one hand, in Western and particularly Roman Catholic, most Protestants have jettisoned this, but there's this idea of the beatific vision,
mm-hmm.
which is basically stare at the orb. Like, everyone, because they're bodiless, is going to be able to behold the essence of God.
Okay. I mean,
right? Which we would say, no one ever can see the essence of God, but okay. Right? But they say you can, right? Because you're the bodiless state, and that's like eternity. Like, you spend eternity gazing upon the divine essence, right? Stare at the orb, right? And at the same time, they affirm the bodily resurrection. And it's thoroughly unclear how those two things do or could relate to each other. Because they're affirming, like, a fundamentally Christian, derived from Pharisaic eschatology on the one hand, and this weird Platonic eschatology on the other hand, that don't actually dovetail. So that's why I say it makes no sense. Right? You just kind of affirm two contradictory things. And this is one of the differences between how Western Christians use the term mystery and the way Orthodox Christians use the term mystery. Like, we start out by saying, okay, the life of the world to come is a mystery that hasn't been revealed to us yet, that will be revealed to us when we get there.
Mhm.
right? Whereas they say, make all of these claims and develop these doctrines of the beatific vision and the bodily resurrection in this, and then when they reach the point where they don't make sense, they say, oh, well, it's a mystery, right? Where mystery is sort of an appeal to just hand waving at the cognitive dissonance you've just set up.
Which reminds me, have you been listening to Gavin Ortland's latest videos on Eastern Orthodoxy?
Honestly, not really.
He has been.
I've heard that basically now you shouldn't become Eastern Orthodox because they're mean
to your ancestors,
and won't say that
your ancestor. Yeah, they like his whole thing is to be Orthodox, and he's like, well, now people don't say this, but this was what Orthodoxy taught,
which is nonsense. But
that anybody outside the church is damned, and so
yes, which is never what the church has taught. But
I've actually gotten like I had a Hindu who was looking into Christianity and Islam because he was like, like Hinduism, polytheism, like forget that.
Yeah.
At the same time, he's like, I love my parents and I will not join a church or mosque or whatever that says my parents are going to hell.
Yeah. Yeah. The Orthodox Church does not weigh in on any particular person going to hell, with two possible exceptions. The New Testament seems to say that Judas went to hell, although it's not totally conclusive. And there is a text that we read liturgically at one point that at least strongly implies that Arius went to hell. But
poor Arius.
Yes, other than those two possible exceptions, the Orthodox Church has never declared that anyone went to hell with any kind of dogmatic sureness, because that's Christ's job to judge. Now, you can go and quote mine, which is what Gavin Ortland does. He goes and he quote mines and finds church fathers and Orthodox writers, saying negative things about Roman Catholicism or negative things about Protestantism, or just in general about saying heretics have cut themselves off from the church and from the grace of God, right? And these kind of things. But I can quote mine Protestants saying that all through history too, right? And to be blunt, Gavin Ortland goes on Jordan Cooper's channel and talks about how Protestants are so accepting of each other.
Yeah.
Right. And we're really Catholics because we're Big Tent. Okay, Jordan Cooper's a Lutheran. He won't give the Eucharist to Gavin Ortland. He won't pray with Gavin Ortland because Gavin Ortland's a Calvinist. And according to Lutheran doctrine, Gavin Ortland's church is not a real church. It's a sect because he doesn't baptize infants. Okay. So Gavin Ortland is.
Gavin Ortland doesn't do infant baptism?
He's a Reformed Baptist.
Okay. So
he is completely bad faith with these arguments. He is totally using unequal scales. Right? Like his own. This is what I tried to point out when I was talking to him. Right? Every criticism he had of the Second Council of Nicaea and icons, you could equally level at the First Council of Nicaea and the doctrine of the Trinity. He just didn't.
Well, that's been
right.
Sam's whole thing
for no reason. Yeah, that's why I kind of brought Sam up sideways, because I was like, every argument you're making applies equally well. So you're using these unequal scales. This is the problem with Gavin Ortley. He has this broke methodology where he comes up with these ad hoc arguments to aim at his opponents, seemingly blissfully unaware that the same arguments apply to his own position. Right?
Yeah.
And even when that's pointed out to him, he continues to use those arguments anyway, which is why I say it's in bad faith. Because once that's pointed out to you once, that like, hey, you know what? I could quote mine Protestants, I could easily show you why, from a Lutheran perspective, you as a Reformed Baptist. I mean, let alone they would have killed you in the 16th century, like literally executed you for what you believe, right? Like Lutherans even today will not pray with you, will not commune with you, and do not think your church is a church.
Right.
Right. But we're going to pretend that's not true. And you're going to quote mine Orthodox sources to try and say, oh, look at these mean Orthodox saying that my church isn't a real church.
Yeah. Have you heard about the recent Spinoza controversy? It's very obscure. I would be very surprised if you did.
No. I mean, I've heard of various. That was the one time I went to the Reformed Synagogue in West Virginia. They had this lecture series on Spinoza.
Okay. So the thing with Spinoza's excommunication is very strangely, it wasn't put in place by a rabbinic court. It was put in place by basically the board of directors of the synagogue, right? Which they had to wait for the rabbi to leave town to do that. But apparently recently, like, there's at that synagogue, which, like, I don't know how many people there are there. I'm guessing not many. There's 2 Orthodox rabbis, an Ashkenazi and a Sephardic one. And both of them are very agreed that the Spinoza Cherem excommunication is still in force. And this guy who's writing, like, he's a Spinoza expert, was making a documentary. I think he's made it by now. And so he wrote to the synagogue asking for permission to visit. And one of the rabbis decided to send this really like this thing of, like, Spinoza was a heretic and you spend your entire life promoting the work of a heretic. You are and he said persona non grata here, right? And, like, the current board of directors is like, what are you doing? And they forced him to apologize and sent a letter saying the rabbi has no authority to declare anyone persona non grata here. And it was just such a weird inversion of the original cherem.
Yeah.
Because, like, it was the board of directors that placed him in cherem when the rabbi wasn't around.
Yeah.
And now the rabbis are like trying to uphold this cherem, and the board of directors is like, no. So
Spinoza is the origin of Judaism.
Like, obviously Spinoza's idea is, like, the guy ended up buried not in a Jewish synagogue,
yeah,
which we take seriously, but, like, he's obviously, like, his ideas are not Orthodox Judaism, but, like, we're not that big on cherems, and especially, like, the guy's been dead for years. Yeah. So, like,
he's not doing a lot of damage today. There's not a bunch of Spinozans leaving synagogues to follow.
Yeah, enforcing, against this biographer of Spinoza, like, I just don't even understand what these rabbis were thinking. But I guess if you are the rabbi of the synagogue,
yeah, who knows? Maybe he's constantly getting Spinoza stuff, just 24/7, and he's just sick of it. He's like, "Curse you, Spinoza!" The next guy who says Spinoza to me, I'm going to let him have it.
Apparently he did. I mean, it was a pretty sharp letter he sent. Yeah. I thought you would enjoy that story.
Yeah. How dare you bring up Spinoza to me?
Yeah. So Andre here is actually one of he is now Eastern Orthodox. He grew up in a Sikh family, which is why earlier he was making fun of the idea that Sikhism is ethical monotheism.
Yeah, exactly. Well, get in touch with DBH and you can fill him in.
So Andre, who lives in London, says, where are tefillin in the Orthodox Christian tradition?
Currently? Where we don't have a lot of Jewish people?
Let me say this.
Yeah.
Andre has been taking the Eastern Orthodox liturgy and on my Discord server translating it into Hebrew.
Oh,
so
okay.
he's been learning Hebrew. He's like kind of a Judeophile, Eastern Orthodox, as much as you can be Eastern Orthodox and a Judeophile.
Has he been cheating in an easy way and all the Psalm verses, just looking them up in the Hebrew and tasting? Yeah.
So that's kind of what we've been saying to him is like, but I think it's not the Psalm verses, it's the parts. I mean, I could pull up some.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of other parts,
Yeah, those
that are
are
from the New Testament and other things. Yeah.
That he's been trying to like figure out. Yeah.
And there's some freebies like, Cherubim and Seraphim and Sabaoth and, where we just transliterated anyway. So, yeah, I think the closest thing, since we don't have, a lot of ordained Jewish people, is people do venerate the hems of my vestments.
That's tzitzit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Not tefillin.
Yeah. No, I was.
Yeah, and you guys don't have mezuzot either. So this is one of Andre's translations. I don't know if this is a common part of your thing.
I got to put on my cheaters.
We were not impressed with this translation. Yeah. Don't know what you think.
No, this is from the beginning. Well, his Amin is pretty spot on, but can't really argue with that.
Yeah. I mean, l'shalom olam livriut ha-knesot ula'achdut guf ha'ma'aminim nitpalel la'Hashem.
Yeah, I mean, I want to be nice, but I have to say, I mean, this is even pretty far from the Arabic. Like, that would be the other way to cheat.
Yeah, that would be a good
way. I know chunks of it in Arabic because I'm in an Antiochian church, and
I actually think that's probably the better way to cheat. Yeah,
is to take the Arabic translation and go from Arabic to Hebrew.
Yeah,
because that's, I mean, half the work's done there. Like,
I will suggest
Bisalaman, right, is in peace,
Yeah. So that was Andre's stuff. He's I'm not sure which patriarchy he's a part of.
Yeah, we don't really have a mezuzah. Certain Orthodox churches, depending on how the gospel book is kept on the altar, it is covered. It is so, but we don't have a full on. Yeah,
that's much more than
Yeah,
Yeah.
the in general in our liturgics, the gospel book, the book of the four gospels,
Mm.
is used where the Torah scroll is used
Okay.
in the Jewish service for the most part. And those are separate books. The book of the epistles, which is everything else in the New Testament, is a separate book.
You know,
That's not kept in the altar and that's read by the laity and etc.
aren't there or certain Eastern Orthodox, or maybe it's Oriental Orthodox bishops who wear like this veil over their cross on their top of their heads type thing? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think you're thinking like Ethiopian bishops in particular will do that. And in general, the Tawahedo Church in Ethiopia has a lot of stuff brought over from Ethiopian Judaism.
Okay.
So you'll see some things that are closer to Judaism, but they're also closer to Ethiopian Judaism. So all of those differences tend to apply too, right? Like the places where that's a little different.
So apparently Andre did try the Arabic to Hebrew and it didn't work.
Okay. It didn't help. Okay.
And he's in the Moscow Patriarchate.
Okay.
Isn't there already the liturgy in Aramaic? Why not start from there? That's a good question.
Finding a clean, it's not really Aramaic, it's Syriac or Georgian Aramaic. But both of those are dialects of Aramaic. And I don't think that's actually easier than going from Arabic. I mean, it might be if you're like a Syriac expert, right?
Apparently he's tried that too. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. What's Jack?
So I assume, are you going from is he going from the Greek, I assume then?
I guess.
Moscow Patriarchate?
I'm guessing. I doubt he's going from the Russian. I guess you're past the eschatology thing now, but please tell Father Stephen DeYoung that his Nietzsche eternal return stuff on a recent LOS episode convinced me to finally read Unbearable Lightness of Being. That sounds familiar, but I don't know what Unbearable Lightness of Being is.
Yeah, I don't know where he's going with that.
Yeah. What was I was going to say something else. It's getting late and I am starting to get tired. Yeah. I'm not exactly sure why I mean, anytime anybody asks Hebrew questions on my Discord, I'm always happy about it, but I'm not even sure why. Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure there's an Eastern Orthodox liturgy that's
I was going to say
Israel.
I know the Jerusalem Patriarchate has at least significant chunks of services in Hebrew.
Yeah. There actually is a Hebrew Divine Liturgy already, but it uses a really weird set of Hebrew syntax that isn't familiar to any Jewish people.
I wonder if that translation was made before 1948.
Well, I mean,
I wonder if it was for native speakers who were there before sort of biblical Hebrew was revived, and that's why it has weird syntax, is what I mean.
I mean, I would be interested in. I think I've listened to it, to attempts to do. There's one particular priest who's on YouTube who, he was a secular Israeli Jew and he converted to Eastern Orthodoxy. There's been a few of those, and yeah, I I couldn't really understand the Hebrew he was, except for like when he introduced the Shema, because apparently he's put the Shema into the Divine Liturgy now. But yeah.
Trying to think where that would be. There's a place in Vespers that's real close.
I'm not sure. Like, yeah.
Oh, by the way, I haven't told you.
Yes.
In addition to Noahides, there's a new phenomenon. I'm getting emails. Reverse Noahides.
Reverse Noahides.
Yes, reverse Noahides.
What are reverse
Jewish Orthodox Christians?
Yes.
Getting in touch with me, asking about how they could start a project to restore Jewish Orthodox Christianity.
I like it. I like
start
it.
collectively practicing the Torah as Orthodox Christians who are Jewish.
I like it. Yeah, I am very supportive of this project. I am very, very supportive of this project.
Reverse Noahidism has a furtive beginning.
There we go. I mean, this is. I am all for Judaizers.
Well, but the point I've made to people is, right, this isn't an individual thing. And there's a lot of people can't get past this when I'm talking to them. Right? Because they come at it from this very Protestant perspective of, are you saying if I'm ethnically Jewish, I have to do these things or I go to hell? And I'm like, you're looking at this in the whole wrong frame.
Okay, I can tell you, if it helps in any way from a Jewish point of view, we don't not eat pork because we're
afraid of going to hell.
Afraid of going to hell.
Right.
That's
I know
not
that.
the point.
That's why I say you're looking at this from the whole wrong framework. Right? Yeah. Like, it's not Gentiles can eat bacon and go to heaven and Jews can't, right? Like, Jews go to hell if they eat bacon, right? That's not how this works. And so trying to reinforce them, this is a thing you practice communally, right? This is not meant to like pull you out of your Christian community and leave you isolated doing these things that no one else is doing. This is meant for groups of a Jewish Christian community to practice these things together, right? And that's why I've typically framed it in, for this to really happen, we'd have to have a larger scale, right? Conversion of Jewish people, whole Jewish, like a Jewish rabbi converting who could lead this and make the application decisions, right? And, you know, I'm not qualified to be the one who makes the rulings, right? On, on what's kosher for a group of Jewish Orthodox Christians, right? Like, we're going to need some more to happen before this can really get going, which is another reason I call it reverse Noahides, because I think you're having the same thing with the Noahides. They're like, shouldn't we be meeting together or something? You know, like there's.
Well,
and it's sort of like, well, who's the person to decide this, and how do we approach it, right?
If you are going to try to have some sort of Jewish Eastern Orthodox thing, you would need to have at least 10 adult males.
Right. You have to have a community that's going to do this.
Yeah. Without 10 adult males, you're just
I'm not singling out the one individual ethnically Jewish guy.
Yeah.
At a parish of 250 goyim, right? Saying you need to live completely differently than everyone else.
It literally is. I mean, the case of several people, some of whom I've actually talked to you about, where they're Noahides, and I told them go to an Eastern Orthodox church because they have the monarchical trinity and they're the closest thing to an actual synagogue you're going to find within 500 miles of you. So
but that's a big part of it, is trying to explain them. No, that part of the reason it has to happen communally is that there has to be someone internal to that community who's going to make the rulings and give the guidance, right, on all the particular details, right, of how the community is going to practice and apply these things and do this.
Why aren't they contacting the Jerusalem Patriarchate?
Oh, the Jerusalem, because these are people in the U.S. The Jerusalem Patriarchate has no presence in the U.S.
Interesting.
So that's not really an option for them. So, but yeah. So we just need to get the mass conversions going on.
Yeah.
We'll start with all the secular Jews, then you could be happy about it.
Hey, if you can have the entirety of Reform and conservative. Yeah. At least they'll believe in God.
And then once we have everything up and running, then we'll get you to come take a look and see what you think. That'll be
yeah. No, I mean
then we'll get the religious Jews to come see. Yeah.
That was the thing with Gideon. You know, he's like, he converted from conservative, which I mean it's better than Reform, not much, to Eastern Orthodoxy, and I'm like, you're not telling me you got further away from Judaism as far as I'm concerned. Some people would argue with that. Many people would argue with that, but I wouldn't. Yeah, I think actually believing in God is where it starts.
Yeah, kind of a significant element of the Jewish religion.
Well, I mean, okay, so vast majority of Reform and conservative Jews really do believe in God.
Yeah,
they just don't realize that their rabbis don't.
Well, yeah.
And a lot of them get offended when I tell them the rabbis don't.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's true of most like liberal Protestants and stuff too, right? Like the average person in the pews at an Episcopal church or United Methodist church is actually a pious person trying to live a good Christian life and don't realize that, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I've told you this story a billion times, but for the audience, there's actually a video that a member of my community showed everyone of his rabbi from a conservative synagogue having a discussion with a Reform rabbi, and the Reform rabbi says, yeah, I would say over 90% of the people at HUC, which is the Reform rabbinic seminary, are atheists. And the conservative rabbi says, yeah, I would say that's true about JTS as well, which is the conservative thing. And it's like, these are graduates of these seminaries talking about their classmates.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, which is not different than liberal Protestantism. When I had a friend who got married by a PCUSA, which is the big Presbyterian mainline liberal denomination in the U.S., in Texas. And so I asked the guy, I said, so, you know, I imagine Texas is probably a little more conservative than a lot of the rest of the PCUSA. He said, yeah, I'd say this Presbyterian, we're probably about 50% conservative, about 40% liberal, and about 10% Druid.
Druid?
Yes. So,
yeah,
I didn't ask where he fell in that, but you know,
opinions on David Wolpe. Please don't call him rabbi on my channel. I have 3 nephews. The first one had his bar mitzvah at Wolpe's synagogue. I went. I was very unhappy. The second one had his bar mitzvah at Wolpe's synagogue. I went, and I told my sister, I am not coming to the third one's bar mitzvah if you have it at this synagogue. Third time, it's not going to happen. And thank God he actually chose to have an Orthodox bar mitzvah. So, yeah, not a fan of Wolpe and haven't been for about 20 years.
I
You have a
imagine
book.
celebrity rabbis are a lot like celebrity pastors.
I mean, so the reason he announced his departure from Sinai Temple here is because he has been a vocal advocate for gay marriage in a conservative synagogue where most of the congregants are Persian. And
Oh,
yeah,
read the room, man.
and like, yeah, people. And so he announced his departure. He was in fact going to leave for Harvard. And he's still there for some godforsaken reason. But yeah, you're co-authoring a book with Ortland?
Not really. We're working on different chapters
Okay.
of a book. And not anytime soon, because like the next phase of it, I think our deadline is in January, and that's not the final phase. So
Are you not writing a book currently? How is that possible?
oh no, I'm writing my own book currently.
Okay.
That's another thing. And writing my dissertation for my second PhD.
That's the thing that just kills me. Why a second PhD?
I don't know. I've been in school my whole adult life. I mean,
yeah, I cannot wait.
Gotta just keep going.
To
Plus, it
finish
keeps the
my.
student loans in deferment.
I cannot wait to finish my this master's degree.
Yeah,
because
social work. Is it an MSW?
Yeah. Because I just want to be so done. This quarter was kind of difficult. Yeah. Okay, people, it's 1 a.m. Is this the Christianities Project? Do you know what that is?
In the Christianities Project. I'm not sure what that is. I don't think the book I was talking about is that. It could be that. I don't know all the details.
No idea. What PhD are you adding to your sash?
This one's philosophy.
The previous one was
biblical studies.
Biblical studies. Okay. John Here's project? I don't know who John Here is.
I know who John Hears is. I drank a bunch of wine with him and told him about the 2 times I almost got arrested by Secret Service.
You got almost
in February.
You have the most fun story.
But yeah, I'm not sure what that project is. I don't know.
I'm constantly telling people you met your wife at BRD.
It was actually, yeah, I have to correct you on that. It was LBRS.
Oh, it was LBRS.
Yes.
Okay. I keep on saying it BRD.
The Hall of the Ogre King, to be specific.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys go back there on your wedding anniversary?
We have been back there.
Yeah.
We were doing a Nixia runs because you had to 5-man LBRS as part of the quest chain to get keyed to fight a Nixia.
Yeah.
And I was the second tank for our guild, so I was having to run groups through there to get everybody keyed. And we got there, and we did the first boss, who's like the Ogre King, and then healer dropped group. So the warlock in the group, Surly, said, "Oh, I have a friend who's a healer."
Okay, there you go.
We invited my wife, who was a female minotaur, and she healed that run, and then ended up joining the guild, and
the rest is history.
Ended up on Ventrilo speaking eventually, at which point we discovered she was a lady, and I began hitting on her.
As you do.
As I did. Yeah, I no longer do that.
You're no longer hitting on women on Ventura?
Yes, I know, or anywhere else for that matter. But yeah, that was it's despite the fact she was in a long-term relationship with someone else.
Yes, I remember you saying,
yes,
"What's your man got to do with me?"
I ain't trying to hear that. Yeah, that's that was my policy. And so, unmarried men out there, piece of advice, right? This is absolutely true. Do not worry about if she has a boyfriend. Okay. If she is happy with her boyfriend, you won't get anywhere.
Correct.
Okay. But here's the thing. Nobody likes being alone. Nobody likes being single.
Right.
So they will just kind of stay hovering at the edge of a relationship that they know is kind of dead, just so they don't have to say they're single. Right. And you coming by can be throwing them a life preserver. Right.
Aha. So you're doing them a favor.
Right. So just ignore whether they have a boyfriend or not. Like I said, if they're happy with their boyfriend, they'll shut you down real fast.
It doesn't matter.
Move on, right? But, you know.
But if they're married, forget it.
Yes. Do not be hitting on married people. Yes.
Okay. Glad to hear.
Because that even if that worked out, it would be stupid, right? Even forget the whole adultery sin thing.
Yeah.
Let's just set that aside for the sake of argument, right? If they're willing to leave their husband for you, they're willing to leave you for someone else.
Somebody else. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. This is true. This is true. Okay, people, I am going to end this stream. It was nice seeing everyone. Good night.